The Philippine Librarians Association Incorporated, in partnership with the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, through the National Committee on Libraries and Information Services, and the National Library of the Philippines, would like to thank the following generous sponsors of this PLAI Online Congress 2020. Platinum sponsors: Graw Hill, Ex Libris Asia Pacific Private Limited, and CNE Adaptive Learning Solutions. Gold sponsors: Electronic Information Solutions Incorporated, Megatext Philippines Incorporated for De Gruyter, and Oxford University Press. Silver sponsors: Airbooks Corporation, Family Search, Megatext Philippines Incorporated for Wiley, Bloomsbury, and World Signet, Philsoft Technologies Group Incorporated, and First and Finest Technology Corporation. Bronze sponsors: Weissman's Books Trading Incorporated, Taylor and Francis, LiveTech Source Philippines Incorporated, and Phoenix Educational Service Incorporated. Thank you for your support.
And we're back. Welcome to the third day, the afternoon session of our PLAI Congress. Again, our theme for this year's Congress is Libraries as Catalyst in the New Normal Environment, Changes, Reforms, Transformations. This event is in partnership with the National Commission for the Culture and the Arts, through the National Committee on Libraries and Information Services, and the National Library of the Philippines. Again, I am Donna Labangon, a librarian at the De La Salle University Libraries, your host and moderator for this afternoon. So magandang hapon po. Kamusta po ang ating lunch? Naka-recharge po ba tayong lahat? So I hope yes. But be sure you're ready, no? For we still have another set of equally interesting presentations this afternoon. And of course, we still have something for our dear participants toward the end of today's session. So please make sure you'll stay with us for the announcement also of today's winners of raffle prizes. I'd also like to say hi to our colleagues and friends watching live via the PLAI YouTube. So please don't forget to subscribe to our official channel. And now, let us continue with our plenary session with resource persons coming from different LIS associations. So the next presentation is from the Medical and Health Librarians Association of the Philippines, or MALAP. And the next speaker is the librarian of the Ateneo School of Medicine and Public Health. She served as MALA president from 2014 to 2016, member of the MALAP Board of Trustees since 2008, and advisor to the MALAP Board of Trustees from 2020 to 2021. Our speaker's presentation will include a video tutorial, which might be a bit too fast given the time limit we have. But should you need the full video, I think we can upload that one, or you can directly keep in touch with the presenter. So now, to talk about the road to digital transformation, low-cost solutions for libraries, let us welcome Ms. Jonah B. Arevalo.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jonah B. Arevalo, and I am the librarian of the Ateneo School of Medicine and Public Health. I also teach as a senior lecturer at the UP School of Library and Information Studies. Before I proceed, I would like to thank MALAP, PLAI,
and AFMPH
for the opportunity to share with you our digital transformation experience at the AFMPH. I will also talk a bit about Library 4.0 and some low-cost methods and solutions that you may adopt to transform your libraries. When the Philippine government imposed community quarantine policies, digital resources became crucial to both online learning and online teaching. Despite the digital inequalities we are facing, libraries are taking creative steps to fulfill their mandate of providing access to information. I'm here to talk about effective, low cost, but can be temporary or long-term measures that we can do to augment our services. In this new normal, are you 100% confident that you're able to adopt? If not, then you are not alone. Most of us are trained to do services in the traditional method. Ano nga ba yung traditional library services? Traditional libraries give emphasis on the acquisition, storage, organization, dissemination, and preservation of physical items, particularly books and periodicals. Information is physically assembled in one place. In this new normal, we were abruptly forced to change. We must provide our users options to access resources remotely. Libraries and librarians' roles have expanded beyond the acquisition and organization of collections we maintain. Libraries now provide not just the resources, but also the skills needed to engage with the digital world, bridging the gap between information and access. For today, I want to share with you our experiences in the Ateneo School of Medicine and Public Health. Initially, our library's mission is to provide collaborative spaces and information sources for shared expertise, learning, and discovery. So during our planned renovation, we added makerspace rooms, or we call it learning hubs, where we provided a space for small group discussions equipped with whiteboard markers and projectors. But COVID-19 happened, so our mission became focused with digital sources and services. With the direction of our dean, we aim to become the ASMPH Library 4.0. Ano ba yung Library 4.0? Let's do a quick review. Young has stated that Library 1.0 is associated with Web 1.0. In the same way, Library 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0 are linked to their corresponding versions of the web. Library 1.0 is represented by passive entertainment such as television in its current form. Spivak described 1.0 as a one-dimensional web. Library 2.0 represents content created by users such as blogs and podcasts, or the social web, according to Spivak. Farber said that Library 3.0 is the ongoing era of users jumping into media, using virtual worlds, and becoming more active. Hang and Yong and Spivak described it as the semantic web, a web where data and knowledge are connected based on intrinsic meanings rather than just links of information. Spivak described Library 4.0 as an intelligent web. When humans are upgraded with technological extensions, always connected to the internet. So in summary, Library 4.0 is a form of next generation digital library. But let us not get confused with the naming conventions. These are just descriptions of the web and how libraries use them as a tool. Now let's focus on Library 4.0 and how we can apply its contents in our schools. Some of you may already been doing this in your libraries, but you are not just aware that these are features of Library 4.0. Library 4.0 is a hard 45-degree climb in library professional services and access to such services. Librarians will no longer be simply collectors of volumes and references or passive recipients of requests for books, journals, and articles. We are to be competent curators of pertinent materials for teaching, learning, and research. Librarians need not always be physically present in the physical library space, but must be present in the digital space at all times. Librarians are essentially in perpetual search mode for the best materials and resources by consistently and constantly communicating with their patrons. Secondly, with regards to access to library resources, remote and secured access are of paramount importance. Protection to privacy and proprietary materials are in place. Library 4.0 ensures access, connectivity, and devices by all bona fide users. Since March 2019, we have been preparing a one-stop shop portal for our community. Our first objective is to have ease of access to our electronic resources. It took about 9 months to materialize because we looked for the most cost-efficient way of doing it, considering the budget and manpower we have. Cost comparison and discussion of each options is up for another topic, or you can ask me about it later. We decided to subscribe to Remote XS because we followed Rizal Library subscription. It worked for them, so we thought maybe it will work for us. But it took us a while to set this up because we had to clear license agreements with different vendors, and we also needed to make sure that the data privacy of our users is secured and protected. Due to the government's implementation of community lockdown last March, we were pressured to set this up and make it available immediately. Although we were sort of ready to go live, we still encountered a few stumbling blocks at the beginning. We sent out activation instructions as early as April, but only 20% activated their accounts. We needed to get creative so we can increase account activation and maximize the use of our e-resources. We self-taught and learned how to use photo and video editing tools for a more effective marketing and promotional activities. At present, we now have 1,001 user accounts. About 97% of our total population now have access to the library portal. Although we succeeded in the first step, that is providing access to e-resources, we did not stop there. We provided additional venues for our patrons to reach us. Aside from email and Facebook, we also set up Instagram and Twitter accounts. We even bought a prepaid SIM and put it as a contact information through Viber. We also added a document request tab in the portal so our community can easily request for materials that they cannot find in our subscribed resources. We also provided a curated list of ebooks and audiovisual materials. This list is based on different subject and modules per year level. We requested for a copy of each syllabus and get the reference list of required and supplemental readings. Then we examined each of our subscribed resources for the permanent link. We also added related sources based on our discretion and materials relevant to the subject. We were able to finish this list by about 5 months. Now that we have the platform, how did we ensure that our students have access to the resources they need for online learning, be it asynchronous or synchronous classes? First, we realigned our remaining book budget last March for electronic resources. Second, we painstakingly recorded the references listed per syllabus, and then we checked if these books have digital versions. We are quite fortunate in the medical sciences because three of the medical content giants created the collection of their medical textbooks. Elsevier has Clinical Key, McGraw Hill has Access Medicine, and Lippincott has LWW Health Library. And they have different collections depending on your needs. And since these are databases, our students get unlimited user access. They can download PDFs and they have access to more content other than the digital copy of their textbook. For other titles that are not available on these databases, we got them through a pick and choose ebook platform. The only difference with this type of access is the restrictions for concurrent users and the number of page downloads per day. And it is more expensive if you total the number of titles you need. And not all of the med textbooks are available in one platform. Now that we have the platform and the content, the next step is to make sure that we maximize utilization of these resources. We coordinated with the Office of the Associate Dean for assistance in disseminating information to faculty and students through mailing lists and Viber groups. We created additional social media accounts. We used to maintain just Facebook, but now we created Twitter and Instagram accounts. We also participated in different town hall meetings with students and parents to answer questions that they may have about the library resources and services. And we created several video and infographic tutorials regarding access to and downloading electronic resources. We also learned how to use photo and video editing applications so we can make better infographics and infomercials. So, can you apply this with your libraries as well? Of course. What can we do if we have limited budget? First, make use of Google. Use Google Drive to store digitized copies of your books. You can restrict access to your organization or you can enroll specific accounts. If your subscriptions are all IP-based and you have no extra budget allocation for VPN, you can use several remote desktop applications. But before implementing any of this, please make sure that you coordinated or consulted with your IT department first. If you have a legal office or data privacy office, make sure you consult regarding data security policies so you will be guided accordingly. When implementing remote access to your computers in school, you can make it work similar to the computer reservations in your own libraries. This way, your students need not go on campus, but library staff needs to be on site to set this up.
For the online computer reservation, create calendar reservation first so you and your users can easily see which time is available. Go to teamup.com, click login, and register an account. Key in the calendar name, then your email, and then assign a password and click create account. Then log into your email to verify your account. Now you can create a new calendar, for example, computer reservation. Then accept the terms and conditions. For the TeamUp free account, you can create up to 8 calendar names. You may ask, why not Google Calendar instead? Well, the difference with TeamUp, once a schedule is typed in by the first user, hindi na yun mababago ng next user. It's on a first-come, first-served basis. Whereas in Google, lahat ng editors can change the entries. Now, if you have more than 8 computers in the library, you can create another TeamUp calendar with the same name, or in the examples above, Computer Reservation 1 and Computer Reservation 2. Now, to set up the reservation details, you click on Settings again, then Event Fields. Change the title field to Purpose. The next field is which computer do they want to reserve. Then, change the Who field to Name. Make this a required field. Then disable the other fields. Now you can use the calendar. Indicate the purpose, choose the schedule, select which computer, and input the name. Just click on your entry to change the reservation details. As the administrator, you can also delete entries. Your calendar is now ready. Make sure you share the modifier link to your students. With the modifier link, users can only fill up the free schedule and cannot overwrite the ones with entries. With this, you can avoid double booking. When your online reservation is set up, the next step is to set up remote desktop. For demonstration purposes, I will show you how to use TeamViewer. I am not endorsing this application. Your choice should be based on your institution's policies and, of course, your own professional discretion. I decided to present TeamViewer because it's one of the most user-friendly application and it's easy to install. Again, before implementing any of these, please make sure that you coordinated or consulted with your institution's IT department first. If you have a legal office or data privacy office, make sure you consult regarding data security policies so you will be guided accordingly. To install TeamViewer, search for it from any browser. Click on TeamViewer. Click Download and select if it's for Windows, Mac, or Linux, or even your mobile phones. Then click Download TeamViewer. Once the download is completed, open the file, click Default Installation, then Accept. Once the installation is completed, select for personal use, then click Finish. Now you can share the ID and password to whoever reserved the computer, and they will have access to your computers in the library. Once you use this app, you'll find it easier to use your mobile phone compared to your typical flatbed scanner, when sometimes the center part of the book is not captured properly. To do this, download the free scanner app from Play Store. Click Install, then open the app. Click Allow twice, and then you're ready to scan. Take a photo of the cover page. Set up the margins properly to crop the image. Then it will automatically adjust the photo. Click on the plus sign to add another page. Take a photo of the title page. Adjust the margins again. Then it will adjust automatically. For the next scanning, you'll notice a shadow. Take a photo. Adjust the margins again. Then click OK. Then select the text filter. Then you'll no longer see the shadow. Once you're done taking photos, you can share these files as PDF or JPEG. Then select it through Gmail, Viber, or Bluetooth. Or you just want to save to Google Drive. More importantly, what I want to share with you are lessons learned when we transition from traditional to digital library. First, start with the basics. Work with what you have. In ASMPH, we realigned our print book budget for ebooks and database subscriptions. For offsite cataloging, we asked the help of our IT department to set up secured and remote access to my desktop in the office that connects to the server. Our library clerk processed the print book on site. Then I asked him to send me photos of the barcode that also serves as our accession number, and then all the pages needed for cataloging: title page, the cataloging page, and the last page number.
I also asked him to take photos of the ownership tags with supplier details and price. And then I cataloged at home and sent him back the call numbers for printing and labeling. Also, make use of Google Drive. You can use Google Sheet to list your available resources and add links and URLs. Second, know when to ask help. It is also important to know what you know and what you don't. There are librarians who have experienced aspects of digital transformation. You can collaborate with them when necessary to consult and arrive at the results you want. It's okay to acknowledge that you don't know everything, but assuring you'll learn as you go and be able to adjust eventually. Next, maximize the potential of digital tools. Digital services can be easily measured or tracked. When we switch to Team Up Calendar, we can easily generate reports of how many students reserved for the learning hubs and discussion rooms at a particular time and date, instead of the manual counting of written reservation forms. With digital forms, you can easily count the document requests and create reports out of these usage statistics. With the new normal, digital forms also helps reduce the transmission point of the virus. With digital promotion on your social media platforms, you can monitor how many likes and shares you have. Next, you don't leave traditional behind. You're not leaving all your existing knowledge behind. Going digital still requires the traditional methods that forms the practice of librarianship. You still do acquisition, organization, and dissemination, but this time doing it online or via the World Wide Web. You still need to understand your patrons. All of these practices still applies. You're simply applying them to new situations. And whether you think you're ready or not, just start right now. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Miss Jonah B. Thank you for sharing low-cost ways of transitioning, no, from a traditional to digital libraries. So of course, it's good that we start with the basics, no, work with what you have. I love that, and it's also good that we maximize the potential, no, of digital tools. Okay, so moving forward, the next presentation is from the Association of Special Libraries of the Philippines. The next speaker is a librarian at the University of the Philippines College of Law. Before being a professional librarian and a licensed professional teacher, he was an Ayala Young Leader Delegate in 2013 and a national finalist and a regional awardee of the 10 Outstanding Student of the Philippines in 2014. He is the Community and Youth Projects Committee Chairperson of TOSP REACH, the Outstanding Students of the Philippines Region 3 Alumni Community of Heroes since 2017, founding librarian of a library community collaborative program in building and sustaining barangay reading centers that started in 2017. Director for Finance of Project Saysay Incorporated since 2018, the founding officer and the secretary of the Network of Academic Law Librarians Incorporated since 2019, Assistant Secretary of Philippine Federation of Professional Associations since 2019, and lastly, the Secretary in 2019 and current Public Relations Officer of the Association of Special Libraries of the Philippines. So to talk about special libraries, bounce back, tools, mindsets, and technologies to pandemic-proof your library. Let us all welcome Mr. Brian B-Boy Cortez.
Thank you very much, Miss John. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. Wait, I have technical problem. Oh my God.
Oh.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, um, I can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Okay, so thank you. First of all, I want to greet a national happy National Book Week. This is my first time to join PLAI Congress since I passed the board exam in 2015. First, but definitely not the last. I am representing the Association of Special Libraries of the Philippines Incorporated for this plenary session. Thank you to the 2020 Executive Board of ASLP headed by Ms. Mercy Servida of Lopez Library and Museum. Also, to Sir Brian Lloyd Dairit of UP School of Economics, Library, and Ms. Maizel Marie Fosque of UP School of Labor and Industrial Relations, who helped me in completing this presentation. So my topic for this session is Special Libraries Bounce Back, Tools, Mindsets, and Technologies to Pandemic-Proof Your Library. Okay. 2020 is a year that we experienced different extraordinary circumstances in our lives. We witnessed the eruption of the Al volcano in January and series of earthquakes in different parts of our country. Fires that destroyed businesses, church, and communities, leaving Filipino families homeless. And recently, three strong typhoons hit our country. Severe floods engulfed communities in Luzon. Somehow, we are prepared for these man-made and natural calamities. We have earthquake drills that we conduct in our respective institutions. In fact, we have the national simultaneous earthquake drill that is being conducted every year. We also have the Fire Prevention Month that we observe every March by virtue of Proclamation number 115-A signed by then President Ferdinand Marcos and Proclamation number 360 of 1986, where we discuss and raise awareness about the causes, hazards, and dangers of fire. We also have Typhoon and Flood Awareness Week, a yearly event conducted every third week of June by virtue of Presidential Proclamation number 1535, series of 2008. These events made us realize that we have to create disaster and risk preparedness plan for our libraries to protect our collections and library assets, and also for the safety and security of the people working in the library. When COVID-19 entered our country and became a pandemic, it seems that everything stopped. Our library services, our work, events and training, everything. We are afraid to go out. We distance ourselves with people. We are in panic in buying essential goods and whatnot. We don't know what to do. Most, if not all, haven't included the pandemic in our disaster and risk preparedness plan. We are all surprised that this phenomenon will happen during our lifetime. In my almost 5 years working as a librarian, this is the most challenging time I have experienced. Moving forward to our topic, our discussion will include current measures implemented in our libraries, mindsets that we have to make our libraries pandemic proof, different tools that we can use to continue serving our library users even in time of uncertainties, and technologies and innovations that libraries use for their services, and lastly, the conclusion. Okay. A lot of webinars discussed about the current measures that libraries are implementing. First, libraries are still closed. We are still in a community quarantine that prohibits libraries to open for public use. But some special libraries did not close, like SIFDEC or the Southeast Asian Fisheries Development Center. They just limit the seating capacity, their seating capacity for social distancing. Borrowing of books are not advisable, since it is said to be that books could transmit viruses. Online service is the most effective to reach our library users and assist them for their information needs. Document delivery is being done by some libraries to lessen person-to-person contacts. Most of us are still in work from home arrangement for our health and safety, and the use of online resources is also effective to support our library users in their research needs. Now I will discuss the challenges in special libraries, and I know other types of libraries can relate also. For library services, users are not allowed to enter the library since current protocols prohibit libraries to accept people to use any facilities to eliminate virus transmissions. Since we can't accept users to enter the premises, borrowing and returning of books were canceled. Most of the special libraries are subscribed in online resources that can only be accessed inside the library. We don't have remote access that our users and even us librarians who are working from home can't access. There are a lot of research projects that put on hold because of the situation, and some libraries postponed receiving book donations from individuals and institutions. For human resource, we librarians were not allowed to enter the library. You can continue doing our work and finishing our backlogs. Everything is filing up. Some librarians kasi are receiving documents every day that they need to record and file. Mental health is also a serious challenge for us. I experienced this personally. Anxiety attacks, bursts of emotion that I don't know where it is coming from, fear of the future because we don't know what will happen next. I don't know where to release my stress. I used to walk around BGC High Street when I was working in BGC. If I whenever I feel stressed or travel in different places to unwind, but I can't do it anymore. I'm not used to talk about my personal battles. Okay, so all of these affect my work performance. And last, because of the work from home arrangement, our productivity decreased. A lot of distractions and personal responsibilities at home are some causes of distractions, and we find it difficult to focus. Next is technology. Connecting to internet is very challenging, especially in places where internet connection and mobile data is problematic. Not all of us can afford to buy laptop or devices instantly when we are tasked to work in the comfort of our homes. Some of us are not trained to use different applications and software that we are now using. Outdated library website is also a challenge to provide service to our library users. Our website is one of the effective platform to connect with our users. And lastly, remote access of our to our online resources is not available. Then library budget. Since everything is going online, we have to invest in subscribing to online resources. The problem is we don't have the budget. Okay, internet and equipment subsidy can be imposed. It is expensive to have your own internet connection plus the equipment needed to continue working at home. That's why we are asking our administration to subsidize these needs. And some institutions cut their budget. Okay? Wala na nga budget, nag-cut pa sila. Okay? So, with all the challenges I mentioned in special libraries, these are the measures taken to address those challenges. Since users are not allowed to enter the library, librarians implemented document delivery where resources are sent straight to the doorsteps of our users. They just have to pay for the courier service. Librarians talk to the online resources provider to have a special agreement to allow remote access. Thank you to all the generous and kind providers who agreed to this kind of arrangement and to those who offered free access to the resources in the first months of lockdown. Timeline of the ongoing researches were also stretched to give way to for the preparation in remote library services. Book donations were also rescheduled and certain guidelines and protocols in accepting book donations were also placed. To continue serving, librarians are now in work from home arrangement, and most of us are doing. We communicate with our co-library staff and library users using different platforms. Some libraries have rational schedule where assigned librarian and library staff report in the library a number of days per week. given that they are fit to travel. Series of seminars, workshops, and consultations about mental health were also being done for the library. In some libraries, like the De La Salle University College of Law Library, conducts regular kamustahan to check on their people. This kamustahan helps in uplifting the spirit of our fellow librarians and library staff, and to know how the library can help them overcome difficulties working from home. Upskilling librarians through different webinars and in-house trainings. So this will fill the knowledge gap in operating library online and stay updated with the current trends and technologies in librarianship. And lastly, our library leaders is continuously thinking of different ways to help their people to adjust and still comply with their work requirements by providing guided list of deliverables and assigning teams or groups to work hand in hand, and no one should be left behind. For technology, some institutions provide internet subsidy for librarians and library staff. They also allow their people to borrow computer units. UP Law Library, College of Law provides this additional benefit for us as well. Orientations and workshops were also conducted on the use of different computer applications and software. Special libraries also did their best to update their websites to better connect their users virtually. And the most popular in this time of pandemic is the use of open source to access materials to support the information and research needs of our clients. For library budget, librarians are said to be resourceful and creative. We are natural on this because we don't have enough budget. We look for free resources online without any copyright issues. For the love of work and librarianship, we use our personal resources to subscribe to internet access, our use of our personal computers and laptops, and even some of us that can afford subscribed in online resources to serve our beloved library users. Special mention to Ma'am Maria Teresa Javier of Development Academy of the Philippines, and also part of the executive board of ASLP, who personally subscribe to online resources to be able to serve her clients better in these trying times. Sana all. Okay. Moving forward, bear in mind that another pandemic will happen. Always consider in any contingency and strategic plans that another pandemic will occur. Scientists have been sounding this scenario years before COVID-19 happened. Public health experts noted that pandemics are unpredictable. No one can say with certainty who will get sick, how ill someone will be, and how the virus will spread. Viruses tend to spread in waves, with an initial wave of infection that is often followed by one that is more severe. Influenza pandemics frequently originated in Asia, where millions of people live in close quarters with their poultry and livestock. We still do not know what kind of effect any potential vaccines will have against this pandemic. Although the countries that have vaccine production capabilities will probably be first in line for any vaccine that is produced. There are vaccines against COVID-19 in the horizon, but pandemics will still occur in regularity this century and beyond. Globalization, climate change, and increase in animal-human being contact are some of the factors contributing to this phenomenon. One needs not to be ready when they are ready. We have to set our minds that we should not be contented with the printed books that we have in our libraries and keep all our records in our library cabinets. We have to digitize them. It is good that special libraries direct its collection development efforts toward enriching its electronic resources, both the proprietary and open access. Especially in Philippine libraries, print materials are still preferred. Some users want to feel and smell the aroma of the books, but statistically say that use of these resources are dwindling. An expenditure ratio of 50 to 50, print and electronic respectively, is a good start. We have to go virtual. Bring the library to the cyberspace. Make the resources and services accessible online via a dedicated website and social media sites. Promote an extensible use the document delivery in serving clients. The University of the Philippines College of Nursing launched this Ask Vida, which stands for Virtual Information assistants where they answer queries online. VIDA is a virtual image representing a reference librarian responsible for helping clients find useful references and provides research assistance via email, Hangout, and FB Messenger. The De La Salle University College of Law Library also has Ask Clara, or Legal Resource Assistant, to provide legal information and resources to their law students. We also use different platforms to be virtually visible. We use Facebook by creating a page for our library to post updates regarding our services. We also create groups to discuss important matters. Some libraries also using Twitter and Instagram because not everyone is active on Facebook. Viber is also used for faster communication. We also use emails to communicate with our users and send them the resources they need. Some also use SpringShare to facilitate the information needs of their users, where they can send emails and chat with preferred library information assistants. SpringShare tools provide a secure and affordable platform to power online presence of the library, from building and maintaining an effective website to extending libraries' online reach in a secure way. The LSU is using this platform as well. Traditional way of communication is still effective: text messaging, and phone calls. Increased library to library cooperation. This is not the time to be selfish. And I know we librarians are very generous and kind in providing resources to our fellow librarians who are in need. Cooperative acquisitions and networking must be strengthened to include provision for cooperation in time of pandemic. Small special libraries may cooperate to create a union catalog, share the subscription fee to online resources, and integrate their local databases in one website. Interlibrary loan and document delivery service among members must also be intensified. So best example of this library to library cooperation is the Network of Academic Law Librarians Incorporated, headed by Ms. Willian Frias. We created a Facebook group where our members can ask for materials that their respective users are asking. As they are always saying, there is no library with a complete collection. That's why we have to work together. But we also have to take in consideration the existing policies of our libraries and institutions before we share our resources. That's the ethical way of helping our fellow librarians. So there are special libraries who are extending their services to promote environmental protection, because some of the virus that may cause another pandemic will be coming from different parts of our environment. Special libraries must make fight against environmental degradation a priority. Pandemics are the direct result man's disregard of the environment. This may be included in the library's advocacy. We will now talk about the tools we can use to make our libraries pandemic proof. Special libraries must start digitizing their unique assets, such as archival materials and special collections. It is projected that digitized content will become the primary access for the collection instead of being the main preservation method. Government documents are generally copyright-free, hence often used items may be digitized as well. Digitization is an additional work for us librarians and library staff. Some of us are new on this process of preservation or collections. Training is very important to be equipped with skills needed to properly do the digitization. So the Department of Science and Technology Institute, Information Institute, use their website to offer free access to the resources and digitized materials. They offer this DOST Starbooks, or the Science and Technology Academic Research-based openly operated kiosks, the first Philippine Science Digital Library. Senate Library is also doing digitization for their legislative documents that are free to access by the public. Other government institutions are doing this as well, such as Supreme Court Library, House of Representative Legislative Library, among others. The UP College of Law Library is also continuously digitizing our collections. We are now building our digital repository. We also have the legal resources on demand, where we digitize and collect the materials requested by our clients. We share the resources through Google Drive and set the restriction to view only, so we can still monitor the resources we are sharing, and also to protect from any copyright issues. The UP School of Economics also have this electronic thesis and dissertation where their students and faculty can access. The resources are protected. Users cannot download it or make any print screen. They are also starting to create their institutional repository. So make sure that online resources can be accessed by clients at home. The CD collection may be shared via cloud computing. Special libraries can take advantage of the unlimited storage spaces of some Google Drive accounts. This can help the clients access the CDs at home. As due diligence, review the copyright and licenses of the materials before making them accessible off sites. So Open Athens and Easy Proxy are some of the examples we can use for remote access. So during a pandemic, users search information on the web practically on their own. It is beneficial for them if their librarians have trained them well to become information literate. In this way, they can obtain only the most authoritative and reliable information. The De La Salle University College of Law is now in their way in completing their legal information literacy with the following modules: finding legal information, evaluating legal resources, and ethical use of legal information. You can also include a video of library orientation in your website as the UP School of Economics did. So the DOST STII offers online library literacy program to requesting school institutions on how to navigate DOST STII resources and services. Lastly, technologies. First in our list is we have to create a website. It is high time that special libraries create a powerful website which shall become the portal where clients can access the resources and librarians can dispense services. Digital curation of open access materials in important library resources may also be done via the website. So you can visit the website of DOST-STII. Okay. The Southeast Asian Fisheries Development Center, Aquaculture Department, where our awardee of PRC outstanding professional in the field of librarianship is working, Mr. Stephen Alayon. Congratulations again, Sir Stephen. And Asian Institute of Management Knowledge Resource Center to benchmark on the possible features of an effective website. So next is to take advantage of open access resources. The library must start collecting and curating open access materials. Copyright and licensing hindered the delivery of library services during the pandemic. Since online resources are expensive, these open access materials can help financially challenge libraries obtain electronic resources free of charge. So these are some of the open access sites you can visit. Government agencies also allow the public access to their resources. We also have preprints. These are full draft of research material paper that is shared publicly before it has been peer reviewed. Most preprints are given digital object identifier so they can be cited in their research papers. And lastly, create databases. If the library has in-demand digital assets, it will be more convenient for the clients to access these via a database. To save on money, open source software may be used. So I also include other library services, borrowing and returning of books through pickup and delivery services, provided that our clients will shoulder all the fees. Health and safety measures in the library. Providing hand sanitizers, installation of barriers, and others, promoting good health for our librarians and library staff, designating book isolation box or area for returned books and use of book sanitizing machine. Rational duty to ensure that the library and offices have enough space for social distancing and the use of online resources. So in conclusion, another pandemic with the magnitude of COVID-19 or more is bound to happen. As such, special libraries must integrate this possibility on their operations and plans. As early as now, they must work on to collect electronic materials and improve their capability to dispense services off-site. For the librarians and library staff to get used to work from home arrangement, Libraries may also experiment to allow the staff to work at home even after this pandemic is over. Connectivity, copyright, and mental health emerged as the most important issues during the pandemic for the libraries. Government agencies and library leaders must address these even if the COVID-19 pandemic is contained. We should be ready for another one should it occur as predicted. So use of different platforms to work virtually and master multitasking using our computers. Always be pro users. We have to consider that our users are stressed also with the requirements they have to submit. They need us as much as we need them. Put safety and security on the top of our priority. We have to involve everyone in planning. They may have bright ideas in dealing with this kind of uncertainties. You may use different strategies in brainstorming. Last time, ASLP conducted a webinar about design thinking. You can still view it on our Facebook page if you want. And always and forever, no one should be left behind, whether they are your coworkers or our fellow librarians from other institutions. We have to work hand in hand. So thank you. These are the resources. And thank you very much. You can scan the QR code for my contact details. And good afternoon once again.
Okay. Thank you for sharing, Sir Brian. So it was emphasized, no, that special libraries ought to be proactive. Keeping in mind also yung staff moral natin, no, through kamustahan, and to start incorporating tools, the mindsets, and technologies to be pandemic proof. So I guess that's it, no? Warm up tayo, no, for this afternoon. So that's the first two presentations this afternoon. And I am sure, no, you have questions in your mind. So to our participants, please type your name, the region, your question, and the name of the speaker to whom your question is addressed to. Please type that in the Q&A button in Zoom, as we will not be entertaining questions from the chat box. Okay? If you have similar questions from the Q&A icon, sa ating Zoom, you can just upvote that question para ma-prioritize natin siya. Okay, so let's begin, no? I have here a question from... Okay, I think this is from an anonymous attendee, but from NCR. This question is for Miss Johnny. Okay. Hi, ma'am.
Hear
So,
me?
the question is,
Can you hear me?
kailangan ba na may IT expert sa library if you are considering using TeamViewer? I think that was one of the tools you mentioned earlier. Kasi with your TeamViewer daw, you are letting other access the system in your computer. So, Miss Jonaby?
Can you hear me?
Yes?
Can you hear me? Okay. Um, TeamViewer is a third-party application. So an IT expert would be needed to ensure that when you let a third party access your computer in the library, although you don't need to put any files in there to make it more secure,
Mm-hmm.
but still your computer is still connected with the network. So your IT expert will be able to evaluate if the network is vulnerable, can be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So kasi in our library we have tried that the computers in the library for students use does not have any files, confidential files,
Okay.
but still it's connected to the network.
Mm-hmm.
So the IT expert can tell you whether the outsider or the students from the outside who will access through
the team viewer will be able to infiltrate the firewall, even if there's a firewall. So that's it.
Oh, alright. Okay. So, syempre, no, ask pa rin tayo talaga ng help with the experts, no, if there are in our community. Okay, so we also have one here. Okay, but by the way, I'd like to read just this comment, no? I would like to commend what Ms. Arevalo shared. Most are viable and very feasible to public and small libraries that wish to extend their services. I might adopt some of the strategies that are applicable to what resources on hand. So you can get in touch probably, no, with Miss Jonna B for more details, no, on this one. Thank you. And we have also a question here. I think this would be for Brian, because you mentioned this one, no? Good afternoon. This is again an anonymous attendee, no? Please give us tips or preview of the best practices in how you do the document delivery. How can we provide this service considering copyright laws?
Okay, for document delivery, we have to assess first, of course, the material. Is it a institutional published by institution, private institution, or is it a public document? Okay, and in terms of the sa libro, we have this 10%. Ewan ko sa iba kung ano yung process nila or ilang percent yung pwede nilang i-scan and i-deliver sa mga users. And sa amin sa UP Law, we practice that the 10% or one chapter per book yung sinesend namin. And every semester, parang one time lang sila pwede mag-request sa isang book ng for document delivery. Kunyari one chapter of that book. Kasi baka paulit-ulit sila mag-request na kumpleto na nila yung isang libro. So, yon medyo nililimit namin yung pag-send namin ng documents sa kanila pag sa mga libro. Pero pag mga public documents naman, since it is public, we can scan and send it to them.
All right, okay. Also, Ms. Jonah, just going back, no, we have a question here. How did you make your thesis and dissertations available to your students online? Are you allowing your students to access the whole thesis or only the abstract?
Since the theses or the papers are owned by the Office of the Associate Dean, so the library is just the keeper of these documents. So what we do, we entertain requests and then we forward it to the Office of the Associate Dean. If depending on the purpose of the request, if they grant approval, and then we will give the full copy. If not, the abstract is always available in our shared drive.
Okay. All right. And also, I think ito follow up talaga to dun sa tanong din kanina with regards sa team viewer, no? Good afternoon. How safe is the team viewer to your network from hackers, cyber attack, or from users accessing the computers?
So far, we have not experienced any malware or hacking, but it's still better to consult with your IT department if the system, for the system's vulnerability. Because as librarians, we only know the user part of the system, how we use it, how do we want the system to work, but the back end, maybe you still need to consult your
So, lagi talaga, no, meron tayo lang ng consultation lang with them just to make sure everything is doing, it's up and running
Yes.
na okay talaga.
Yes,
So,
but still better that you don't put any files in
mhm.
that computer. Okay.
Okay, all right. Anything pa you'd like to share, ma'am?
I would like to add
Mm-hmm.
regarding the question on the document delivery and
Okay,
the
sure.
scanning. So since most of us are not sure, what I did, I asked the IP office, IPO office, or the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines as to how much of the book
Mm-hmm.
we can scan and send to our users.
Mm-hmm.
So from the email that he said, for as long as the reasons are mentioned in the law, the reasons mentioned in the law, the allowable reasons, it's okay. But with regards to the percentage of how much we can scan, he said that there's no fixed percentage. The law says for as long as it's not a substantial portion of the book. But as to the percentage, there's nothing mentioned in the law. So
Mm-hmm.
it's up to your institution how you would like to do your document delivery service. And
Mm-hmm.
another one, I've received a request for a digital copy of clinical practice guidelines. So although we have the print copy, and if I'm going to base the provisions with the provisions of the IP code, we're technically allowed to do that during this time. But I still went out of my way and contacted the author and the publisher if it's okay
Mm.
to scan the pages, and they said that it's not okay. So
Okay.
we did not scan, and we did not uh, provide the request of the students, and then we just tell the students that we apologize, but the author and the publisher did not allow scan.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can do that as well. The authors and the publishers, especially for the local books, uh, which doesn't have most of our local books doesn't have e-version, so it's safe to just contact the author or the publisher.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that one, Miss Jonel B, no? Another question here, but I think both of you can answer naman this one. Kasi I think both of you mentioned about reaching out to our users using online accounts, social media accounts, no? So the question here from Miss Maria Juliana Gasmin, in creating the social media account of your library, did it pass through your VPAA or the president of the school or any higher authority?
Okay.
Okay.
Sa amin po sa UP, nung pumasok ako meron na po kaming Facebook page, and we also have the Instagram, and siguro para sa mga nagsisimula, alamin ano ba yung policy in terms of um, sa ng policy ng school, no, pagdating sa pagbibigay ng information about your library. Siguro dapat nga rin talagang tanungin natin yung administration and how we can create a page for our library.
Okay. Anything, Miss
Uh,
Johnny?
from ASMPH, since the Ateneo main campus also have social media accounts. So in creating our own in ASMPH library, we did not seek approval from any higher office.
Mm-hmm.
But we contact the university marketing office if the content is has information about the school. For example, when we launched the ASMPH Library 4.0, and it contains the vision, mission, and how the
Yes.
students will access
Mm-hmm.
the resources from remotely, and then we used logos. So for that, we requested approval if we are using the correct correct versions, correct color, correct font. So we consulted, we prepared the infographics, and then we sent it to them for approval.
Ah, yes. I guess it's also same, no, with other universities, especially when you're using, no, the official logo, the trademark of the university. Usually, yun pinapacheck, no. If tama ba yung even the shade minsan may ganun, no. So I think yes, at some point you really have to, especially if you have a official media communications team within the university, no, or the school. Okay, all right. I think I just have to close. Siguro one question na lang, no, from both of you. Have you encountered, kasi the sharing, syempre talaga tayo, very proactive tayo, tayo yung go beyond, no, in extending our service. Was there a time ba na a user recommended or suggested something to your team? Nagkaroon ba ng ganong time? O talagang tayo na talaga 'to, tayo na nag-initiate ng lahat? And or yes?
For us, parang wala akong maisip. Because
It's fine.
when we started the project of having a VPN, we already have the users in mind. So
Yes,
we talked
oo.
to the student council, the
That's good.
faculty, and we requested for suggestions on how they would want the service to be. So we've been really proactive regarding that. And as mentioned in the lecture earlier, we are in perpetual search mode and
Yes.
anticipating our users' needs. So before they even ask, parang ready na kami. So that's one of our goals.
Mhm.
If they ask or if they look for something, we can always say yes, or we just say let me get back to you in a few moments, and then immediately we already have the answer. So that's one of our main goals. So parang
So talagang
no,
I
opo.
think, no, nakuha niyo na, no, parang yung kung ano yung parang naisip niyo na beforehand. Because maganda yon na you mentioned there's consultation, no, with student organizations. That's a good practice also, and we're doing that also.
Yes.
Uh,
So
Anything else?
can I share lang
Sure.
something about TeamViewer?
Okay.
The TeamViewer uh, accessing remotely, we are using that for staff only because
Okay, for staff.
our library already have a VPN, and it serves its purpose of providing access remotely, and the tabs, the document request tabs, and the feedback from students.
Mhm.
The page already has that. I showed TeamViewer earlier for smaller libraries who doesn't have enough resources to purchase services like that. But for the staff, just like what I shared earlier, when I did cataloging at home, because the server, my cataloging server is in my office, and my computer is connected to the server. So sometimes our IT department actually has a recommended remote desktop application, and it's not TeamViewer.
Okay.
TeamViewer, but it is not low cost. So it
Mhm.
is not mentioned in my lecture earlier. So when the bandwidth is very, very low or very slow, the IT department recommended remote desktop application sometimes does not work. So that's when we use TeamViewer. But
Oh, all right.
it's not really recommended in ASMPH or in Ateneo for that matter. But it's low cost and there are other options. So that's what I mentioned
Mhm.
in the presentation earlier.
Okay.
Let me just make it clear.
Okay.
Ito recorded. So, baka sabihin ng Ateneo that I'm promoting Team
Okay.
Tutor when we are using a different remote desktop application.
Mm, it's all right.
Thank you.
So thank you for that one, Miss Jornalie. Anything else pa? Sir?
Yeah, yes, aside from regular consultation with our students and faculty, we also have this brainstorming and benchmarking with other libraries. Their best practices. We ask our fellow librarians, and what are their best practices that can we apply in our library, and we talk as a group with other fellow librarians in College of Law and library staff, and we decide what are the services we can adopt so that we can help our students and faculty in their information needs in this time of pandemic.
Okay, yes. That's very important, no? Coming together talaga yung community dahil lahat talaga tayo we're all riding this out tong trying times na to. So it's very important that we consult others, we support each other, no? It's very important. So, syempre, once again, no, thank you to the first set of our speakers for this afternoon session. Maraming salamat sa pag-share ng inyong oras at ng inyong expertise to the PLAI Online Congress. So, we will be awarding our Certificate of Appreciation to our distinguished speakers. And let me just read the certificate, no? The Philippine Librarians Association Incorporated in partnership with the National Commission for Culture and the Arts through the National Committee on Libraries and Information Services and the National Library of the Philippines awards this certificate of appreciation to Jonah B. Arevalo and Brian B. Boy Cortez for being a resource speaker during the PLAI National Congress 2020 and General Assembly with the theme Libraries as Catalyst in the New Normal Environment, Changes, Reforms, Transformations, held online from 24 to 27 November 2020, given this 26th day of November 2020, signed by the Executive Vice President Elisa V. Garcia and the PLAI President Emma M. Ray. So thank you so much, Miss Jonalie and Sir Brian. Thank you
Thank
for the
you.
support
Donna.
of thank you for the support also of ASLP and MALAP for our session this afternoon. So now, moving forward to the last set of our speakers, I hope we're still good and ready to listen. So the next presentation is from the Philippine Association of School Librarians, Incorporated. Our next speaker is a teacher librarian, an award-winning author, blogger, and storyteller. She handles press releases and communications protocol for the Philippine Association of School Librarians and currently represents the library sector in the Philippine Board on Books for Young People. She believes in three things, no? The power of love, the value of family and friendship, and with the use of appropriate methods, that books and reading can change lives. So to talk about designing media and information literacy skills, modules for online distance learning and remote learning, let us all welcome Ms. Sarah Gagatiga.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you very much, Donna, for that introduction. It is really an honor to join PLAI and Filipino librarians today. It's a 2020 Congress. I cannot remember anymore when was the last time I joined the PLAI Congress. So I thank you, Pasli, also for pulling me out of my hobbit hole in Binyan and saying yes to this opportunity to share once more is an honor and a pleasure. Indeed, conducting an online event such as this, of this magnitude, is a monumental achievement for PLAI. So let's begin. Let me share my screen, and here we go. Okay, so the title of my presentation for today is Designing a Media and Information Literacy Skills Module for Online Distance Learning and Remote Learning. So we are already 9 months on the way in quarantine, and it has upended our lives in dramatic and unprecedented ways. And it has taken us a great amount of effort and will to adapt to these changes. The use of technology is very much evident, and transitioning to traditional modes of services and programs made us think of what services and programs we can transfer through the use of technology. In school librarianship, as school librarians work with teachers and learners, school administrators, parents, and the learning community in general, shifting from the traditional physical spaces to an online and virtual learning space is really a challenge. There are fast ways on how we can adapt, making us realize that knowledge for a quick or an easy adaptation into this new environment is really required. But also there is an opportunity for us to slow down. There is such a thing as slow knowledge, wherein we have to reflect and deeply think of the transition period. So I'm reminded by this quote of a well-loved professor, and she said that always consider to put the pedagogical dog first and not allow the technological tail to wag at the dog. So it was something like that, no? And I would like to use that quote to help us think through in our design of an MIL module for online distance learning and remote learning. So yes, I will be sharing experiences I have in the field, and I pulled out examples from friends in the profession also to help us think through this transition of creating learning environments, learning spaces, and learning experiences for our students. So I will be looking at 3 key points or key concepts. We'll briefly brush on, of course, online distance learning and remote learning. We will approach the definition of media and information literacy and how these definitions can factor in the creation of an online module for our learners, and what approaches or what theories and principles of learning can we adapt so that we can at least assure ourselves, our co-teachers and our learners, that they're getting the maximum learning experiences given the environment of online distance learning. Okay. So just to review, because we have been pushed into this new environment and we have done readings and research on online distance learning and remote learning. And if we look at our colleagues, particularly contextualizing what I'm saying right now among school librarians, there are those who are fast adapters and those who are still adapting, and there are those who are still figuring out what to do. Okay, so I hope this session will allow us to at least level the field and create a baseline of where we are so we can help each other. So let's look at distance learning as a modality. It's a face-to-face remote session wherein students can access physical resources, can use printouts, printed books, writing materials, and mass media or broadcast media for learning. The teacher's role here is an assessor of learning, taking in feedback and comments and drill sheets that have been answered by students. In a way, teachers are also content creators. They are not only creating unit plans or lesson plans for teaching, but also creating content so that their learners can learn from outside school. And then we have the online distance learning modality, wherein student and teacher engage and participate in learning experiences online, asynchronously, synchronously, or even semi-asynchronously. So the use of technology is very evident in this experience, given that students also are very much aware of what apps to use, what LMS are put in place by the school, and what hardware is available for their perusal. The teacher now has a role in creating and designing instruction so that students can access them and participate in that environment synchronously, asynchronously. Now, the wonderful thing about online distance learning is that teachers, other than creating instructional spaces with the aid of technology, they monitor their students, they supervise their students, they become guides and tutors, and in a way, transform into mentors. So there are students who will seek their teachers out, not just to follow up on lessons, but to actually create a relationship with them that will provide them with mentorship. And this is the connection that we need to keep in an online distance learning. If our teachers and our students are engaged in this endeavor, in this exchange of knowledge acquisition and knowledge participation, at this point, let's ask ourselves, how are we now supporting our teachers and our students in this kind of dynamic? And then there's virtual learning where students access modules and information asynchronously. So students use laptop with, of course, internet connection to access these learning materials and resources. And just like in online distance learning, teachers are architects of learning as they design a space, a safe space for students to learn and participate in the knowledge creation. So it continues in a virtual learning modality that teachers assume the roles of mentors, guides, and tutors. For school librarians, it's essential that we establish the teacher-school librarian partnership, not only in the creation of online services and programs, but also in the teaching of skills, particularly media and information literacy skills. So there are three ways or avenues wherein teacher and school librarian can work together. We can cooperate with them. This would mean the teacher and the librarian meeting together to plan short-term learning activities and projects that they can work independently. A good example would be the activities we do during book week, diba? We we share we share our activities with the school community and we cooperate with the language arts teacher, with the reading teacher, with the literacy skills teacher as they have activities on their own for their students, and we have activities in the library, and then this is merged together. So we are cooperating with the departments, the academic departments, in the creation of learning activities. So tayo, meron tayong pa-book fair, di ba? We invite storytellers, authors, and illustrators, and we have book quizzes and parades. So that is our way of creating these learning activities. It may not be in a formal school set up or formal classroom yet, but there is cooperation. Coordination, meaning the school librarian and the teacher meet together to plan a lesson with shared goals and objectives, but they work independently. An example would be the school library that has a library instructional program. Embedded in the instructional program are media and information literacy skills. And here comes the teacher requesting for a research session from the school librarian. So the school librarian is knowledgeable of the learning goals and objectives of the teacher who would like to ask help in the facilitation of research skills. So for example, this teacher is trying to teach her students how to identify the appropriate information source for a particular research question. And the librarian's expertise come in by giving a session on primary sources, secondary sources, and identifying the keywords needed to search for information in these different primary and secondary sources. So may program si library, may curriculum si teacher, but they coordinate because there's a shared goal and objective. Now there is a collaboration approach, no? To this learning endeavor. The school librarian and teacher plan the unit of study together and evaluate the results of the learning experience of the student. So school librarian is a partner from day 1 to day 5, meaning the school librarian can come in as assistant teacher, not just a resource person. And the librarian can do assessment, the librarian can conduct evaluation measures of the skills taught in the classroom. So the librarian is partner with the teacher. It can be that a formal assessment before the actual or the summative assessment is done, the librarian conducts a formal assessment. This way, the formative. This way, the formative assessment will inform the teacher that, okay, so my student needs more critical thinking skills on the use of our online database. So librarian, can you do a one-on-one session with this particular group of students, because apparently they are still confused on how to use the OPAC or EBSCO host for that matter. So there is now an extension of the readers and reference services. So from the classroom, the school librarian now becomes a consultant and even a mentor in the facilitation of specific skills. So this is a beautiful partnership, and maybe you can ask yourself, what level or what areas in the school and in the teaching faculty or the faculty have you done cooperation activities, coordination activities, and collaborative activities? So now let's go to part 2, or the second concept that I am tasked to talk about. Instructional design is the creation of learning experiences and materials in a manner that results in the acquisition and application of knowledge and skills as defined by the Association for Talent Development. So in this idea of using a framework to be able to teach and design a learning module, we have to go back and remember what principles and learning theories can we latch this practice on or to. For example, behaviorism that focuses on observable and measurable behaviors of the learner. Cognitivism that looks at how the learner is thinking, what cognitive processes happen in the learner. So if behaviorism looks at the result of a designed environment, cognitism is now concerned of the learner. So student-centered learning begins in this very idea or principle of learning. And then constructivism, which espouses the belief that, yes, learners are capable of problem solving. The brain is used to solve problems, use thinking processes for critical thinking. What happens if learners reflect? Are they metacognitively understanding the task? Are they aware of their learning, and can they monitor their learning? In constructivism, it goes up a notch higher, because this belief in learning looks at what the learner can contribute. So a lot of prior knowledge activation, considering the schema, the experience of the learner, that the learner can participate in this knowledge creation is something that constructivists consider when they create online modules or even a lesson plan in traditional teaching. So is there a best way of the three? I think that there is there is a portion in a learning module where mastery of skill is required. That's why drill and practice must be inputted in that learning module. The environment is designed as such that skills are applied. There is a part in a module where we need to know how students are learning so that we can simulate problem solving activities online or offsite in our learning modules. And then we can always consider the prior knowledge of our learners so that we can help them think through big tasks. And I may be partial by saying this, but in reference services in the high school library, I always ask for students on what they know. I make use of the KWL strategy. I ask students when they ask for resources, what do you know about your topic? What do you want to learn about your topic? And how are you learning now? This way, the prior knowledge is activated. The student can reflect on where he or she is in her learning, and he or she can give me something he or she is working on so that as librarian, I can respond to where that student is at that particular moment. So to put that in our learning modules, to me, is like an exciting venture. Where will you put drill practices? Where will you simulate a problem and solving activity? And when are you going to engage your learner in a question and answer session that would make you understand the learner's participation in his or her own learning? We can actually use a framework or a flow chart or a program for the design of such engagements using the appropriate or the learning theory that we believe in or subscribe to. One is the ADDIE, i.e., we begin with an analysis of who the learner is, what are our goals and objectives, who are our partners, what information and technological materials are needed, and we can create and design instruction, develop it further before its initial implementation, and then of course, we evaluate. We can also use the framework of Ganet's conditions of learning, and to me, I divided it into 3 steps. The first 3 being gaining attention, informing learning objectives, stimulating prior knowledge. This is constructivist in nature. Presentation of stimulus, providing guidance, eliciting performance, and providing feedback. So now you can see here a cognitivism approach to learning, assessing performance, enhancing retention, and transfer, which comes in the behaviorism theory. No? Pumasok dun yung behaviorism kasi you want to enhance the skills. So more drill and practice. So this is now a framework that you can consider in creating your learning module. For our content and skill, we look at media and information literacy, and UNESCO defines it as an important set of skills or composite skills for citizens' participation and survival. Media and information, when we have the skills to analyze, understand, and create our own media and technology, is central to the democratic processes. And once we have the skills, no, it's instrumental in shaping perceptions, beliefs, and attitudes. I think with infodemic and fake news all around, the more we need to learn and to upskill our MIL skills as librarians. In recent years, there's an increase in user-generated content and the use of virtual spaces and citizens journalism, which requires MIL skills. And so how are we now going to approach this? If our content is MIL and embedded in that are skills to be taught, we can take in the lens of process of inquiry for our MIL, facilitation and design of instruction. So there are five big steps in the process: definition of information needed, locating of information, processing of information, which involves analysis and critical thinking, the creation and communication of information, which is participatory and collaborative, assessment of the product as well as the process. So if in your school library you are already using guided inquiry, the Big Six method, that is already looking at MIL into your program as a process of inquiry approach. We can also look at MIL as a critical thinking from a literary and a media perspective. So there's a selection of literature, which is already an analysis or a critical activity. We look at the text structure. Is it problem solution? Is it chronological? Is it multiple viewpoints? We also look at the kind of media. When we say literature here, we are also referring to media and technology like films and podcasts and infographics down the line. So it knowing the structure of media and technology as a literature, we now can challenge our learners to respond to this literature and further examine the type of literature or the genre so that there is a social component in the understanding of this response. And then further on moving to comprehension strategies to further firm up critical thinking skills in the enjoyment and in the analysis and in the use of literature, not just in the classroom, but in daily life. And then here's another approach to teaching MIL or in the design of an MIL module. We can look at it as a public pedagogy, wherein learning in institutional spaces within the school and outside the school is happening. There is educational activity in various forms, sites, processes. Education and learning occur in museums, libraries, zoos, mass media, the internet, grassroots movement, public discourse, pop culture, and dominant public figure. So let it not stop you, no, from we cooperate, we coordinate, we collaborate with our teachers. But I think we also need to continue creating MIL activities, modules for the public good. And when we say public good, this involves an understanding and a comprehension of not just the materials, the technology, the resources we offer, but also the bigger world that we live in. So that would mean looking at the personality and how this public personality posts in social media. We can pull that out and create MIL activities out of that tweet. That's why you can also see some teachers, diba? They would get authentic materials from pop culture and integrate that in their lessons. And in a way, the school now becomes an incubation for social action, for social development. The school becomes an agent for social development. We can contribute that in our MIL and in other relevant library services. So let's have a stretch break, at least 10 minutes. Inhale, exhale, and there we go. You can wiggle a bit, you can stretch a bit, and up there. Okay, let's continue. Where are we now? This is just for you to pause a bit. What are the three principles in instructional design? If you have a notebook with you, please scribble as fast as you can from the top of your head. There's an added question I would like you to consider. What are the three principles you are most confident in using for your MIL module? And what are the three approaches I have identified so far in our MIL module design? And this is not really an assignment or a required piece of answer or question and answer exercise, but just something to jog your mind. Okay, you can leave it at that and go back to it later on. Okay, so moving on. What do you now use as a reference? You can make use of the basic education curriculum of the senior high school done by the DepEd, no? And you can pull in content, performance standards, and learning competencies from that document. For my experience as a teacher librarian, I did a cobbling of um, the process inquiry and the critical thinking of literature into an MIL matrix for K to 12. I made this way back in 2015, and when I get invited to share what I know, I present this to school librarians interested to develop their K to 12 library instructional program. So this is for kindergarten, where you have an introduction to literature, primary years, a continuation of what transpired in the developmental stages of reading. And then we move on to junior high school, where process thinking is embedded and an understanding and exposure to media and other technology. In senior high school, we view them as independent learners already in preparation for their college academic life. So they can now create their own information independently with consultations with teachers and librarians. Another matrix or program that I would like to share with you is the one done by the LaSalle Green Hills. Thank you, Ms. Ching Basagre, pastly president, for sharing this. So they have a rational and they have general objectives and uh, goals presented. And after presenting their goals, they zeroed in now on topics and recommended activities for librarians and teachers to do. And when I was reading this document, when I asked Ching to share this with me, I was surprised because they have in their guideline measures or mechanics on how the teacher and the librarian can work together. So that's one thing I learned from this program. And to move on to what I do in the Beacon Academy, I have created an online module which I call the Pioneer. I used Google Sites, and my experience as a blogger helped a lot in understanding the new Google site. And here I first put in an assessment of information literacy skills. I use the Trails assessment to identify the weakness and the strength, or the areas for improvement of our students. I'm sorry, it's not a political correct term. And there are 5 areas that the Trails assessment tool look into: selecting, um, narrowing, broadening research topics, identifying and definition of information needs, selecting of sources of information, evaluating sources of information, citation and documentation of sources. So what do we do with the result of the assessment? Then I fashion specific learning activities that are modularized by nature or in modules, so that students can work on it synchronously, asynchronously, semi-asynchronously, or when students from grade 9 to grade 12 schedule sessions with me for individual consultation. And that has been an enjoyable experience. Tiring, yes, because I don't see them personally. And when we work together in Zoom, a lot of things are going on. Management of learning is another issue in an online environment, but nonetheless, it's an experience of participatory learning. So I welcome each consultation from students. So these are the references, and I would like to lead you to the Wakelet app I made, okay, so that you can also see, okay, so that you can also see more resources and references, the references I used for this presentation, and there, the resources that I can share with you. This is in public. I can share it with you in the chat box. And there, you can freely pick any link and read up on a resource you're interested in. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much for your time. I went over time for 2-3 minutes. I beg your pardon. See you in the open forum and have a nice day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Sarah. Thank you for emphasizing, the need for us to cooperate, coordinate, and collaborate. Yeah, I think I got that right. Being librarians as partners of teachers, no? And the need for us to also upskill MIL skills as librarians. Okay. So thank you so much, Ms. Sarah, for sharing. Now, moving to the next presentation, this is from the Association of Librarians in Public Sector, or ALPS. So the next speaker is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, post-baccalaureate in Library and Information Science at the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. Finished 36 units in Master in Management at the Trinity University of Asia and graduate of Master in Public Administration at Lyceum Northwestern University in 2017. Currently holding a position at the Quezon City Public Library and heads the Library Extension Division. She supervises the publication of the official newsletter of the library, the Quezonian, and the research and publication of local history books about Quezon City, such as the QC Milestones That Shaped a Great City, the history of QC barangays, journeys to the early beginnings of the history of Quezon City barangays, and compilation of the lessons and legacies, selected privileged speeches of Mayor Herbert M. Bautista as member of the City Council. She also supervises the Facebook page of the Quezon City Public Library and monitors and approves all of the online and virtual activities of the main library and its branch libraries. She is currently the president of the Association of Librarians in the Public Sector and a member of PLAI. She has been in the government service for 38 years. So to talk about the public libraries and librarians adapting and responding in this new normal environment, let us welcome Ms. Lucilia Raquino.
Good afternoon. I thank PLAI for this opportunity that I was able to participate virtually in this year's annual National Congress of the Philippine Librarians Association Incorporated, with the theme Libraries as Catalyst in the New Normal Environment, Changes, Reforms, Transformation, in partnership with the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, through the National Committee on Libraries and Information Services, and the National Library of the Philippines. I am Lucila Raquino, representing the Association of Librarians in Public Sector, or ALPS, and I'm from the Quezon City Public Library. I was tasked to present in this parallel session, and I choose the topic, Public Libraries and Librarians, Adapting and Responding in this New Normal Environment. The last few months, the COVID-19 pandemic has led to a dramatic loss of human lives worldwide and presents an unprecedented challenge to public health, food system, and in workplaces, and have been marked by the settling down of the new normal. To protect the library workers and their communities from exposure to COVID-19 in these unprecedented times, it was strongly recommended that libraries will be closed to the public and only reopen when guidance from health officials indicates the risk from COVID-19 has significantly subsided. Public libraries had to adapt to the new health measures and protocols, like wearing masks, face shield, increasing cleaning schedules in the library, frequent hand washing and disinfecting, And if libraries finally open, they have to accept limited patrons to enter the library and have to follow, again, strictly health protocols for environmental cleaning and disinfection. This should encourage their staff and their library users to take basic steps to avoid spreading virus, including wash hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Avoid touching eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Stay home when sick. Cover cough and sneeze with tissue and then throw tissue properly in the trash, and practice social distancing. In preparation for the opening of the libraries, furnishings have been rearranged. Chairs and tables, observing at least 6 feet apart. Others remove extra seating or mark it with do not use signs. They should also mark floors with at least 6 feet social distancing indicators to show patrons how far apart they need to stay. Barriers were also implemented at the circulation desks to avoid traffic throughout the library. And increase in signage throughout the library. And number 6, provide isolation room for books borrowed, which is 72 hours at least, or at least 3 days. Because libraries play such a vital role in keeping their patrons educated, connected, and entertained, librarians nationwide have been working around the clock to find ways to keep services going despite being closed to the public. Libraries under the GCQ, or the General Community Quarantine, have remained closed for months. But in many cases, staff continued to expand access to digital resources, launch virtual programs, and coordinate services with local government agencies. And other libraries are open at 25% capacity with no study room accessibility, limited computer access, and the skeleton staff, which rotates 3 days in library with 2 days working from home. Other libraries accept users by schedule or by appointment. Public libraries have shifted from face-to-face to online or virtual platforms. Why? Because of health reasons, afraid to get the COVID-19. Librarians are also being responsible for ensuring all library resources should be available from a remote location. However, the call for librarians often does not go beyond providing reference materials, as many libraries are being turned into emergency care centers for patients with COVID-19 and resource hubs for the latest COVID-19 news and updates. If not library being used by other purpose, some librarians were called to do the task aside from being a librarian. So, librarians and staff, other duties during COVID-19 became as volunteers, like call center agents, answering emergency inquiries on COVID-19. They became contact tracers. Others were encoders of lists of COVID-19 patients. Others were assigned to deliver relief goods to households in the community. An example, the Quezon City public staff were also called to volunteer as call center agents from various public concerns and inquiries. But public libraries have had to adapt their offering and imagine new ways to pursue their activities and be innovative while they remain close to the public because of the pandemic. Public libraries continue to shift popular programs and activities online, sharing hyperlocal information and resources, and continuing to connect with other communities by chat, text, phone, and email. Libraries and librarians have to respond to the needs of their clientele to continue being visible, not only to the library users, but to our city officials as well. Like for example, a city official may asks one of us and asked, may ginagawa ba kayo sa library? Di ba close ang libraries ngayon? So, ano pong sasagot natin? Of course, you will say, meron naman po, sir. May mga ginagawa pa ang library kahit na sarado sa public. So, what we do is to conduct services online. So, kailangang i-report na may ginagawa pa rin ng library na in spite of the library being closed, ay gumagawa ng paraan ang ating mga librarians to reach out to the community. We have to show them, our government officials, that libraries are still relevant so that proposed budget will still be approved. Budget now is very much different from the budget we proposed before the pandemic because of the proposals involves technology, internet, e-subscription on journals and newspapers or e-books, and funds for the webinar costs. Because of the difficulty accessing physical books, other libraries reinforce the importance of online content like online journals and other resources. Others use the book lending machines or library-to-go systems, which are a few examples of how these institutions are helping book lovers get their fix. For some libraries, this means providing remote access to databases typically restricted to on-site use and promoting or easing restrictions on digital content. In the QCPL, for example, has innovated and intensified its online services to better reach out their patrons. We have delved into the world of virtual services and online services. We're offering online storytelling, reading tutorials, and other activities through virtual outlets and through our Facebook account that provided kids not only with fun and enriching experiences, but also the comfort of seeing familiar faces amidst the pandemic. These services were conducted even before the pandemic. These storytelling, tutorials, puppet shows, we've been conducting this before the pandemic. But now libraries are avoiding face-to-face contact with our users because of strict health protocols and also preventing the spread and transmission of the coronavirus. QCPL have also conducted virtual programming across various age groups of the children, we have the senior citizens, the out-of-school youth, and others that include collaborative projects such as art crafts using common household items. We have cooking lessons, gardening, lalo na po yung mga plantitos and plantitas, technology tutorials, virtual library tours, featured online history-telling and documentaries, which features our national heroes. And we have also used our puppet materials to some of our online videos. Dati, yung puppet, talagang lumalabas po yan eh. But because of this situation, they they use the puppet through online. And it's appreciated because we saw that there are plenty of likes and shares of our videos. We have also offered online contests like spoken word poetry contests, storytelling contests, essay contests, poster making contests, not only to children, but also to our senior citizens and the youth, which are one of our target clients. While we are still closed, QCPL also conducted online trainings to our staff and have hosted 3 webinars entitled Libraries and Mental Health, Stress or Distress, and Increase of Cyber Crime. We have here QCPL puppeteers invited by Mr. Sir Wanlu. So here we have ang kasaysayan ng nakaraan. And during the Disability Week, we had video on persons with disabilities, which inspires, gives, and hope. So we also have here free online basic Japanese language class, which was very successful. And we never had imagined na ang dami po palang interested in this kind of class, Japanese class. Maybe maraming gusto pumunta sa Japan, but inabot ng pandemic. But now, here we are again, in spite of the pandemic, marami pa rin pong interesado to register in this free online basic Japanese language class. We have also conducted free online trainings to our staff and have hosted 3 free webinars on entitled Libraries and Mental Health, Stress or Distress, and Increase of Cybercrime. Yun. We have also continuously promoting our library services through online radio interviews, echoing to the public the relevance of public libraries in the time of pandemic. The public libraries are open to partnership with our public schools in the city to support them in the preparation of modules and even free use of the internet in the library, and inviting the public, the parents particularly, to allow their kids to watch and participate in online activities and contests of the library. So we also have here one of our retired librarian who continues to serve the community. Naiinip siya sa bahay and namimiss siya yung trabaho niya. She is one of our very passionate librarian. She is already retired, but she continues to provide services to her community. She had purchased books children's books and distributed them to the community, to the children of the community. And may kasama po yung face mask and cane desk for them. So anyway, medyo maingat naman dapat ito. Maingat naman, naka face mask naman. So it's okay. So we have also here videos using our puppets, our hand puppets. We use them to demonstrate the proper hand washing. So, napakaganda pong video nito. Very lively and one of my favorite videos. And one of our librarians also conducted a virtual library tour, because the kids now, or the clients, cannot go to the library. So through our Facebook page, we are trying to reach out and tell the community that the library still is existing and the library is still there to welcome them in case the library opens. So the library tour featured the different resources of the library, the books, what they can read in the library, what are the sections in the library. So para after this pandemic, at least during this pandemic na nakalimutan na nila yung library, still maalala nila through this video that they have to go to the library to read these kinds of materials. So one of a very creative video that was prepared by our librarians is this, the Emang Encantada, Ang Tatlong Haragan. It's a very creative one, wherein our staff, the librarian and the staff created a video wherein they themselves acted. They were the actors and the actresses of this video. Instead of nag-storytelling sila, flipping the pages of the book, they were the ones who videoed themselves acting and what's the story of the book, acting based on the story of the book. So if you can watch this video, it's so entertaining. It's something that the creativity of these librarians is you cannot question really, and you don't even know na di naman napag-aaralan yung creativity, just lumalabas to. It's your passion. If you're passionate with your work, talagang lumalabas yung creativity, especially now na we have wala tayong gagawin but to create some activities beyond our imagination talaga. So every month we also feature a different heroes, the history of these heroes. It's a compilation, it's a biography of these heroes, ginawa ng ating mga magagaling na staff. So like this, General Antonio Luna, we have here, Dimalpa, Day. So hindi natin nababasa na yung kanila, sino ba itong mga tao to, but through this video, we are showing to the community, at least yung mga bata, will be able to know the history or the biography or kung sino tong mga heroes na to, mga taong ito na lumaban at naglingkod sa ating bansa, They died for the country. So one of our activities also is how to make foam puppets, wherein one of our staff is a master puppeter. So he showed this video showing his knowledge and styles in preparing these artworks, these puppets, wherein the children will eventually enjoy. So here we have this, as I have said earlier, we conducted contests, and we also had virtual awarding for this for the winners, so para maramdaman naman nila na nanalo talaga sila. So through this virtual awarding ceremony, we can see the enjoyment of these children who won the contest, no? And they really tried their best to win. So these contests usually are sponsored by some friends of the staff, friends of the library, or even the staff themselves. Nagko-contribute yan just to have the amount of giving prizes to these children. No? So it's very amazing that we did not imagine that they can do these things in this time of pandemic. So QCPL also did not stop publishing its Quezonian newsletter, which documents all the activities of the QCPL, both the main library and its branch libraries. Our newsletter is very useful in times of preparation of reports and storage of library information for future use or research. So sometimes during our preparation of reports, like what activities were conducted this year, so we go back to this newsletter, no, because these newsletters are compiled, they are filed, so madali na lang to go back with these activities and report again. Even in 2018 or 2017 activities, you can see here in our newsletter. But now, no, because of the pandemic, before we print this newsletter and distribute to our city officials, to our friends, to our barangay officials, we bind and file this newsletter. But now, because of the pandemic, these printed materials may be a source of the virus. So QCPL opted to have e-newsletter to be made available online through our website and our Facebook page. Amidst the pandemic, we were able to virtually launch our recently published local history book entitled Journeys to the Early Beginnings of the History of Quezon City Barangays. This book took us almost a decade of research, of encoding, editing, checking, re-editing, rechecking, printing, reprinting, re-encoding, and conducting personal interviews in the barangay officials, our city officials, until its final printing and until its launching. It was, and the book was worth it. We have completed the history and creation of the 142 barangays in Quezon City, formally launched on October 29 in time of the 81st founding anniversary of Quezon City. This book contains how barangays got their names, how they were created, what ordinances created each barangays, what are their boundaries, the people behind the creation of the barangays, and other relevant data that may be needed by the researchers and other stakeholders. I have also asked some colleagues in the public library world, and these were their testimonies to their activities, what activities they are doing in this time of pandemic, how they are adapting in this time of pandemic. So I asked some of them, and one of them said that they support the schools being a venue of teachers in preparing their modules. Public libraries now have become partners with the schools in the community. Others, one of them also said that they help students by tutoring them in their modules when parents are not able to teach their children because they don't know how to. So this era is a time of generosity, maybe, and charity by these librarians. One of them also said that they adapted, public librarians adapted the student who cannot afford to buy a gadget for her schooling, to be used for schooling. So what they did was to buy a cell phone for this student with 1 year supply of load. Imagine. Completos recados. So one public library or one librarian also said that although their library is still closed to the public, but they opened their doors to parents who asked for help in answering modules of their children. And these parents even asked for if they could provide them books from the library for them to use as guide or reference in answering these modules. So one librarian also said that the library provides answers to reference inquiries by providing them with digitized copy of the research subject. So they do the research, and scan the material and send the e-copy to the requesting researcher. So one public library or one librarian also said that they continue to offer e-good services, but by appointment, and still observing the health protocols. Strictly observe the health protocols. Isn't it amazing how librarians and libraries respond to the new normal environment? Well, in this time of pandemic, I wanted to ask each and everyone, kumusta po kayo? Okay po ba kayo? Maybe others will say, yes, I'm okay. But I may say that I'm not okay. But I tell you, it is okay that sometimes we are not okay. Sabi yan ng isang doctor psychologist na naging resource speaker namin sa Libraries and Mental Health. Yan po. This was one of our webinar, Distress or Distress. A talk on taking care of oneself during tough times. And this other one, a webinar on libraries and mental health. So one of the flash news television said protecting nurses' mental health. How about protecting librarians' mental health? Sometimes we are all too busy conceptualizing projects, innovating programs and activities, thinking of more online activities, how to be creative. But are we all okay doing this work from home scheme or through skeletal workforce? Isn't it more stressful working at home than working in a conducive working environment at our offices or vice versa? So yung iba okay lang, but others are more stressed at home. These were the reasons why we conducted webinars on libraries and mental health and stress and distress. Different from the normal topics of webinars about library issues and concerns, we have invited doctor psychologists to these webinars to better explain to the participants in case we're suffering from mental stress or mental whatever, to better understand what's happening to us when we are so stressed and what to do in case we are so stressed, and at least how to combat the stressful moments in our lives, in our workplace, and with our coworkers or our bosses. I will not lecture about mental stress, but at least I am giving you a thing to ponder. So there are many ways the pandemic or the COVID-19 has created stress to our lives. There were anxiety, no? One of these stressor, yung harassment, work overload, like the business crisis, we are bullied, mortgage, hindi na makabayad, conflicts, so debt, deadlines, expectations from our friends, our families, our work, our bosses. So wrong fields, late nights. Late nights, I say, one of talagang nakaka-stress when we are working from home. We cannot avoid during late hours na, after 5. Still, we can receive text or messages concerning work. So, what will you do? But to answer all these inquiries, if possible, do something about it. So, masabahi ka na, you're still working. So, because of it's pandemic, anyway, our time, parang yung oras natin, wala nang oras, anytime. So, there are many ways the epidemic has created stress, like what I've said earlier. But a survey, one of the survey, the respondents answered in most serious concerns were fear of losing a loved one, which is 53%, getting ill with COVID-19, 42%, the financial impact of the pandemic, 41%. This includes yung loss of jobs, no? Loss of contract. So, and number 4 is around how the virus will impact family and relationships, 29%, and fear of dying from COVID-19, 27%. So, we have to deal with this loneliness during pandemic. No? Marami ang nalulungkot, but marami na yung na-stress, may anxiety, may depression. So, what will we do to have a healthy mind and body? So, stay fit during the pandemic. So, be careful on what you consume from the media. Sometimes, mas nakaka-stress yung nababasa at napapanood natin sa Facebook, halimbawa, no? Sa YouTube, no? Rather than entertainment, sometimes we feel stressed. Sometimes we feel like natatakot tayo. So, refrain from too much Facebook na Facebooking. So, also, we have to control we only have to control what we can control. So when you cannot control, of course, huwag na nating piliting i-control. What example, no? You can control your finances. You can control your expenses. What you cannot control is that what people think of you, what people say about something, no? Yun. You cannot control that. So, pabayaan na lang natin yon. So, stay happy na lang, no? Huwag na nating subukang piliting ayusin ang hindi nating kayang ayusin. So, also, you have to stay connected with our family and our friends, no? Iba din yung may nakakausap. Iba din yung na-unload tayo, no? May nakikinig sa problema natin, no? So, stay connected. Pwede naman, kahit malayo kayo, ang dami namang paraan, alam na natin yon. We can have mag-PM ka lang, no? So, telephone, no? Through social media, yun, nakukonect tayo sa kanila. So, the most important part is that we should do physical activities and exercises. So, this is to be able na yung ating good circulation. We have to have good blood circulation, no? Sa ating katawan. So, minsan stretching, no? Yung ulo natin, masakit na yung leeg, you have to stretch. Yung ating mga likod, yung paa natin sa kakaupo, you have to stretch, no? So that we'll stay fit and healthy. So, thus, aside from providing innovative services to our patrons, so thinking on ways how our public libraries will stay relevant and useful, let us not forget to take care of ourselves. We have to boost our immune systems, to stay healthy and be able to do our jobs well. But most of all, we have to ask for God's intervention and blessings. In conclusion, public libraries and librarians stay relevant in this time of pandemic. They stay resilient, flexible, and can adapt to any situation or crisis that they may experience. That in spite of the many struggles, challenges, and inevitable changes in technology, because not all naman is techie, now we are experiencing lack of budget, and the 360 degrees shift from face-to-face to online and virtual platforms. So, but librarians remain strong and are one of the best community leaders who are committed to the library and to the services for all. And I would like to quote, the pessimist complains about the wind, the optimist expects it to change, the leader adjusts the sails, by John Maxwell. Thank you, stay safe, and God bless everyone. Good day.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lucila. Thanks for sharing how public libraries and librarians are adapting and responding to this new normal environment. Maraming salamat po, ma'am. So we'll proceed with the last presentation for this afternoon before we go to the open forum. Okay. So now the next presentation is from the PLAI Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council, STRLC. And our next speaker is a nutritionist dietitian who ventured to being a librarian and a teacher. She took her Bachelor of Science in Food and Nutrition and Bachelor of Science in Education, major in Library Science in the University of the East. She finished her Master of Arts in Education with specialization in Library Science at Philippine Normal University and Doctor of Education, major in Educational Management at Manuel S. Enverga University Foundation, Lucena City, where she is also the library director. She is the president of the PLAI Southern Tagalog Region Librarian Council and the lifetime advisor of Librarians Association of Quezon Province, Lucena Incorporated. So to talk about STRLC, streamlining and transforming regions, libraries, and information centers, let us all welcome Dr. Augusta Rosario Villamater.
Good afternoon. My paper is STLRC, Streamlining and Transforming its Regions, Libraries, and Information Centers. For 15 years, 2004-2019, Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council has streamlined its systems and activities to reach out to the grassroots, encouraging them to provide quality service, do research, and hone leadership skills. What has been the consistent focus of Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council? The Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council, Region 4, covers the provinces of Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, Rizal, Quezon, Mindoro, Marinduque, Romblon, and Palawan. The council serves as the official body of the library and information professionals in the region. To facilitate mobility and communication within the region, the council initiated the creation of provincial chapters since 2005. The provincial chapters serve as the official representative body of the constituent members as the official of the Regional Library Council, of which each of the provinces are represented. The establishment and affiliation of the provincial libraries has dramatically increased the librarians' involvement in both provincial and regional affairs of the council, thus stimulating interactive dialogue among stakeholders at the grassroots level, strengthening ties among the provincial chapters, and also foster members' involvement in the regional and national initiatives of Philippine Librarians Association. PLAI SDLRC simply described itself from the acronym Strengthening Ties, Regional Linkages, and Cooperation, with its core values as honesty, integrity, and trust, or HEAT. For the historical highlights, Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council started on July 24, 2004, which was the first meeting of the officers. They convened to plan for the next move. At the start, STLRC, or Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council, had planned to have an activity that would encourage more membership. For the past 15 years, Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council maintained its commitment to its regional members and to the National Board of Trustees directives. Collected through the years are the following activities. On October 5, 2004, PLAI Region 4 Librarians Council held the General Assembly and election of first set of Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council officers, with Ms. Lourdes Soriano accepting the first chairmanship of the PLAI STLRC Board of Directors at the conference room of the UPLB Main Library, Los Baños, Laguna. On August 16, 2005, lecture on enhancing work attitude of new information professionals in the 21st century, is it a matter of chance or choice? And a General Assembly was held at Colegio de San Juan de Letran, Calamba, with the election of the second set of PLAI STLRC officers and the addition of the provincial coordinators as additional officers of the council. In order to reach every member from far-flung areas and to promote Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council, various platform has been explored and institutionalized. August 17, 2005, creation of the PLAI STLRC Yahoo groups. September 2005, launching of the PLAI STLRC newsletter, Maiden Issue. October 15, 2005, creation of the PLAI STLRC officers Yahoo groups. November 5, creation of PLAI STLRC email account. Since 2005, PLAI STLRC has been producing its newsletter. Due to lack of enough funds, the officers were not able to produce the copies for distribution to fellow STLRC librarians. But because of technology, we found another way to publish newsletter through blog. A website, Apply STLRC, has been created with database created for the purpose of updating the information of members. In November 2005, Cavite Librarians Association class was revived and was registered to the Security and Exchange Commission. In 2006 also is the birth of Quezon Librarians Association and had it registered to Security and Exchange Commission under the present name Librarians Association of Quezon Province, Lucena Incorporated or LACEP. April 18, 2007, PLAI STLRC sponsored a forum on continuing professional education or CPE for librarians, held at the Lyceum of Batangas, Batangas City, and organized Librarians Association of Batangas, or LAB. And 2 days after, Oriental and Occidental Mindoro Librarians Association, or OMLA, was organized with 19 members. The Laguna chapter had been organized since 2007. And for 2020, it was finally registered to the Security and Exchange Commission, providing them a new name, Samahan ng mga Librarian sa Probinsya ng Laguna, Salib-Prola, with the energetic and determined officers, 2019-2021. They have provided a Facebook page and have regularly updating it. For 5 years, from 2004 to 2008, the following are the topics where the conferences focused on: work attitudes, information literacy, lifelong learning, accountabilities, research in librarianship, conducting research, research methods, research style manual, proposal writing, and research funds and grants seeking, research statistics, copyright law, New phase of 21st libraries and information specialists, personnel, analytical ability, communication skill, intellectual curiosity, and service orientation, learning and promoting services. For the next 5 years, 2009, 2013, the topics of the conferences were focused on the following: IFLA FIFE, Revolutionizing Information and Cascading Report, Librarians' Skills and Competence Enhancement, Excellence in Library Service, Accreditation and Standardization, Collection Challenges and Opportunities. Aside from the conferences, it is noteworthy to highlight that on August 18 to 20, 2011, we have the first STLRC International Tour with the theme PLAI STLRC Librarians Exploring Adventures and Discovering in Hong Kong, or PLAI STLRC Lead HK. The first ever international tour and benchmarking of libraries in Hong Kong. Among the libraries visited were the University of Hong Kong Library, Hong Kong Central Library, and the Hong Kong Museum Library. May 7 to 8, 2013 is the first Research Congress for the Advancement of Libraries and Information Services, or we call it RICALIS, with the theme Advancing Library and Information Services through Research and Innovations, held at BSP Hotel, University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Laguna. For the last 5 years of my paper, which is 2014 to 2019, topics of the conferences are as follows: library managers, best leaders in library and information science profession, the first and the second Librarian Summit, participative and collaborative librarianship, management of libraries, and library transformation. To highlight some notable events, August 9 to 10, 2016 is the second RICALIS, or Research Congress for the Advancement of Library and Information Services, whose theme is re-examining the future Philippine libraries and information centers. What does research says? Held at Queen Margaret Hotel, Lucena City, Quezon Province. October 26, 2018 is the third RICALIS, or Research Congress for the Advancement of Library and Information Services, with the theme Transforming and Connecting Libraries Through Research, held at Lyceum of the Philippines, Laguna, Calamba, Laguna. In August 2 to 4, 2007, the first Librarian Summit with the theme Convergence of the Southern Tagalog Librarians was held at Sierra Madre Hotel and Resort, Barangay Sampaloc, Tanay, Rizal. August 8, 2018, second Librarian Summit with the theme Soaring, second SDLRC Summit on 8/8/18. Action taken at Trece Martires City, Cavite. SDLRC envisioning a participative and collaborative leadership role in the profession at 15 and beyond was held at Teachers Conference Center, Barangay 6, Batangas City. August 23 to 27, 2018 is the second STLRC International Benchmarking Tour in Bangkok, Thailand and Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, with the theme Exploring Malaysia and Experiencing Thailand, ABC, Adventures, Benchmarking, and Collaboration. In summary, gathering the events for 15 years, we got 10 conferences, seminars, and fora. This means an average of one major activity per year. We have 11 general assemblies together with the election of officers. For the first 5 years, the General Assembly and election were held annually. Then, from 1 year to 2 years stint for the officers. The region had hosted 3 research congresses to encourage Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council constituents to write and build on research agenda. Librarian Summit and Leadership Convergence had been a regular hosting of the region since 2017 to encourage its constituents to be aware and prepare themselves for leadership. The region had also 2 international library tours for benchmarking. It is the goal of the regional council to increase membership. From the start of the regionalization, membership was less active. The region has 21 lifetime members. From 2005 to 2020, the table revealed the increasing number of members who had paid their annual dues. The increase of paid members was the result of the requirement of the Professional Regulation Commission, or PRC, to submit a certificate of good standing in order to renew the license. The region has sustained the association's activities for its good financial status and had issued a total of 134 certificate of good standing to its members. The table shows the monthly issuance of the certificate of good standing for 2019. As the region grew its membership today, it is important to highlight the inspiration figure of each of the provincial chapters. The great women of the region, Pargawad parangal sa natatanging profesional na tagapangasiwa at tagapaglingkod ng pampublikong aklatan, was awarded to Concepcion Villanueva of Clash for 2019 unang gantimpala, and to Miss Meled Ibias of Lakep 2020 ikatlong gantimpala. Another are the doctors of the region. From the Cavite Librarians Association, Dr. Sonia Hementiza, Dr. Winifreda Metante. From the Samahan ng Librarian sa probinsya ng Laguna, Dr. Leonor Tiu, Dr. Maria Lindy Masalinto, and Dr. Elizabeth Malabanan. From the Librarians Association of Batangas, Dr. Lilian Rabino, Dr. Elsa Guarino, Dr. Maria Chona Chavez, Dr. Maribel de la Cruz. For the Rizaleños, Dr. Adora Malyari, For the Librarians Association of Quezon Province, Lucena Incorporated, or LACEP, Dr. Aurora Navella, Dr. Jillian Portia D. Maranan, and yours truly. Aside from the librarians who pushed their way to finish doctoral degree, there are two scholars whom we are proud of, who are accepted and selected as Erasmus Mundus Scholars to the International Master in Digital Library Learning. For 2009-2011, Mr. Marshall Batiansila. And 2010 to 2012, Miss Audrey Anday. Libraries have transformed to be more inspiring and encouraging, which resulted to winners in contests in the National Book Week. In 2019, first place for poster making contest and essay writing contest. For 2020, Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council continuously moving up, improving and engaging in activities that will benefit its member chapter and individual members. Despite pandemic, Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council had not stopped in reaching out to their members. Provincial chapters initiated the following activities: free webinar, pre-Recalis webinar, last October 25, and the aim of which is to prepare the librarians and researchers from the region in writing a research paper that may be presented in the 4th Research Congress for the Advancement of Library and Information Services, or RECALIS, which is tentatively set in 2021. It is a free lecture and workshop where the output of the participants will be the paper that they will produce during the webinar. Another free webinar, which was sponsored by the Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council with the theme Survive and Thrive, Reinventing Library Services During Pandemic, was held last July 24, 2020. Speakers were Miss Audrey Anday and Mr. Kevin Tansyongko, and we had more than 1,000 registered participants. The Regional Council waived its 2020 annual dues. The region appreciated that all provincial chapters waived the payment of the annual dues due to COVID-19 pandemic. It is a little help for all members. Those who have paid the annual dues for 2020 will be credited for 2021. The region also promoted and encouraged public librarians to take Bachelor of Library and Information Science under the Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency Accreditation Program, or ETAP. Library science schools in Region 4 and its faculty are participating and collaborating with CODLIS and PATLS for the syllabi standardization and formulation of the table of specification for the librarian's licensure examination. Takbook. Takbook is a fund-run activity that aims to generate books and other instructional materials to be donated to the libraries badly affected by calamities. This is a simultaneous activity held in Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, Rizal, Quezon, Marinduque, and Mindoro when it was first launched in 2013. Books will serve as registration to this activity and will be given to the libraries affected by calamities in the province or to the libraries in a nearby provinces and region. Zumbo, a Zumba dance as book drive project for libraries damaged by calamities and help communities build libraries in Quezon province. The objective of this project is to generate books and other instructional materials to encourage citizens help build libraries in public schools, municipalities, and community libraries, which started in 2014. Librarians Association of Quezon Province had the advocacy to establish libraries in every municipalities of Quezon Province. In coordination with the Public Library Division of the National Library of the Philippines, through Ms. Bless Velasco, LACEP had only 7 municipalities without library affiliated to the National Library of the Philippines. 3 of the municipalities whose papers for affiliation are nearly complete. And there are 4 municipalities which need to be visited. In conclusion, the Southern Tagalog Region Librarians Council has continuously assisted its constituents on projects and activities that aimed in transforming the region's libraries and information centers and be attuned to the needs of time. The establishment and affiliation of the provincial chapters has also dramatically increased the librarians' involvement in both provincial and regional affairs of the council, thus stimulating interactive dialogue among stakeholders at the grassroots level, strengthening ties among the provincial chapters and also foster members' involvement in the regional and national initiatives of the Philippine Librarians Association Incorporated. The activities have shaped who STLRC or Southern Tagalog Librarians Association is, how provincial chapters helped in molding the librarians and the para-professional staff, thereby transforming the libraries through increase in participation and regular hosting of activities to support professional development and enhanced library services. Further, the librarians in the region have collaborated, shared best practices, and collectively addressed issues affecting the practice of librarianship and management of libraries and information centers. With all this, the Council's members are vigorously working on strengthening ties, regional linkages, and cooperation, which is deeply rooted in its core values of honesty, integrity, and trust. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rose, for sharing the activities aimed at transforming your region's librarians to be responsive, no, to the needs of this time. So that's it for the last set of presentations this afternoon. And I am sure you have questions, no, in your mind now. I'm seeing some of you already posted your question. So again, to our participants, if you want to ask something to our resource speakers this afternoon, again, please type your name your region, question, and the name of the speaker to whom your question is addressed to. So please type that one in the Q&A button in Zoom, as we will not be entertaining questions in the chat box. Okay, so let's proceed. No, let's start answering those questions. Okay, first, we have here a question for Miss Sarah. Hi, ma'am.
Hello.
So this is a question from Miss Juliet Villanueva.
Hi,
Uh,
Juliet.
yes, to Miss Sarah, you mentioned about ODL, where the teacher can monitor or supervise and guide students in their activities, and at the same time, create relationship that will provide mentorship. So in what way can this take place, and can you elaborate the role of librarians in this particular teaching learning process?
Okay, una sa lahat, kailangan meron talagang allotted time for the teacher and the student to interact. Maring it could be that this is impossible for K to 3 learners because their developmental learning needs are different. It may be possible for a short period of time for middle grades, high school, and senior high school up to college. What we did in our school is to allot the afternoon for study hall, online study hall, teacher consultations, and as librarian, they request for consultations with me, particularly in research. So it's the teacher who initiates this, who guides the student when can he or she consult the librarian. Now, there are students who are also very much independent na, no? Alam na nila yung learning goals nila and they can manage themselves well. So these students now are free to schedule a session with me and we talk about their research question, they want to validate their references. So that's when the MIL module I created comes in very much useful for me because I refer them to these resources. And then we have online databases, so I also review this with them. But early on in August when we opened our online our school, the library had a library orientation na rin with them. So, kailangan talaga well-planned eh. Kung online distance learning, no, the teacher should know for an hour what to do with that synchronous meeting. Low stakes assessment ba yan? Differentiated activities ba yan? And then nakaplano din sa lesson plan niya, ano yung mga asynchronous activities that he or she will monitor for a particular week. And that the response of the student is now of accountability and responsibility. So the schedule, the synchronous sessions, the asynchronous meetings, the school's LMS, all of these were communicated to parents before we ventured into our ODL platform or experience. So because our calendar is an August to May calendar, so naabutan talaga kami right smack ng remote learning. And it was a tough and challenging time. So when we opened school in August, we sort of have sorted out what we need to do. So there were mistakes. It wasn't perfect, but I think that's where yung samahan, yung community comes into play eh. And you really have no choice but to work with people. You really have to go out of your comfort zone and admit, I cannot do this. This is what I can do. So how can we help each other? So nangyari yun sa amin from March until May. But we had to graduate our batch 2020, which we did. So it's a political will ng school leadership. Academic leaders must also step up. Teachers and librarians must also rise to the challenge. And na-activate talaga lahat eh. Guidance counselors, our learning support who's in charge of the SPED students, no? And our learning support teachers were the ones crying out, how can I now do a one-on-one session with a student who's autistic? That is very real, diba? How can I now do a one-on-one session with a student who needs shadow teaching? So those challenges are real. But we had to face them kahit mahirap. And if the school administrator is supportive, I work in the private sector, and yes, it can be a privilege. So we have this setup. Pero nahirapan din kami. And until now, we are learning, especially in the delivery of exams and assessments, which is very soon.
Oh, yes. So, napaka-importante nga po talaga, ma'am, no? But thank you for answering the question. So, ngayon, sobrang importante nung ibinigay talaga ni ma'am earlier yung tatlong C na yun eh. Yung
Cooperation,
cooperation,
coordination,
coordination, collaboration.
collaboration.
Yeah, so it's very important right now. You mentioned also, kasi may question din dito, no? From the
Yeah,
sharing you had earlier. This is a question from Jonathan Pantaleon. You
yes,
touched
yes.
on na special needs, no? Sabi niya dito, what's for other strategies could you also suggest to school librarians who would like to develop modules for an inclusive media and information literacy program, one that really caters to students with special needs? So,
Okay. So, dapat talaga in place na yung assessment nyo. Papasok pa lang yung estudyante, meron na kayong assessment for students with learning support needs. Kung ano man yung spectrum ng learning need ng student. So, you can screen. And then anong school policy ang gagamitin ninyo to accept that student, and if you can support that student in his or her learning. So that's one. Second, kapag andyan na yung student, no? Kasi meron namang napapansin kami ng mga student na nasa amin na in the middle of the year, hindi pala siya na-assess, wala siyang clinical or any personality or psychological assessment, then we recommend. And this is again the teacher being very perceptive, no, of the different learning needs and learning modalities. So that's one. Second, as far as the library is concerned, you have to look at your collection. Is it inclusive in the way that you build it, no? May lexile ba kayo ng readability? What readability measure are you using to build a collection for readers who are below their expected reading skill, and those who are going beyond their reading skill? So, librarian, ready ka ba sa content mo tsaka sa collection mo? Are your online subscriptions lexiled? May reading measure ba ang mga online subscription mo? World Book and EBSCO has. Naka-lexile sila. Kung wala, kumuha ka ng app that can help teachers level the text of the reading materials, no? So that's number one. And number two, and then you also have to look at what do you mean by inclusivity? Learning lang ba? Kasi inclusivity may also mean gender preference. Inclusivity may mean religion. Do you tolerate different kinds of religion in your school? So dapat representative din sila sa kanilang sa collection mo. And it flows through your program. May representation din dapat yun. Ngayon, kung MIL naman ang pag-uusapan natin, we can go the approach of differentiation or differentiated learning. Previous to COVID, I had this teacher who asked me if I can teach students in understanding a case study. Case study, no? Kasi grade 10 ito eh, and they're looking at a case study of an industrialized company, no? Or a company during the Industrial Revolution. So, tinanong ko yung teacher, anong kailangan mo? Bakit ka mag-introduce ng case study? And then sabi niya, two things. I have students who can understand the text and what a case study is, but I have students who are struggling. So what we did was to divide them. Kinuha muna ni teacher for the first 20 minutes yung mga students who can read and annotate the content, the text of the case study, so that they can prepare a bibliography, an annotated note, which they can use for discussion. So yun, kaya na nila. So that's activity number 1. Yung napunta sa akin, I had to introduce to the students what a case study is for, what it looks like, who created the case study, when was it created, what is the purpose of this case study, no? So yun muna yung pinag-aralan namin. So again, bumalik ako sa collection ng library. Do I have enough case study for this kind of learners to read and understand? Ngayon, nung kinonduct na namin yon, nag-swap kami. So kinuha ko pa rin yung mga confident ng mag-annotate so that the material so that they can also experience as a review kung ano ba yung case study coming from a librarian's perspective. And then si teacher naman na nagturo ng annotation, annotating the content of a case study, yung skill ng note-taking and annotating, ang tinuro niya dun sa group na yon. So that's how you can facilitate it. And again, that's where cooperation, coordination, and collaboration is happening. Now, again, uulitin ko, although I'm not comfortable in saying this, we have this privilege because for one grade level, we only have 20 students, 25 students, no? Naka-divide pa yun sa dalawang klase, class A, class B. Letters lang yun. Walang ibig sabihin yung letters sa ability nila. So imagine teaching 10 students, di ba? And then another group of 10 students. Ang sarap. ang sarap nilang turuan. So even the assessment, even the evaluation is makikita mo talaga, no? That's why hats off ako sa ating mga public school teachers and librarians and teachers who are teaching 35, 40 students, 60 students in this time. And maybe we also need to hear from them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree, Ma'am Sarah, no? Iba rin ang nasa side when it comes to that part, no? Yung mga challenges din na kinakaharap nila. Of course,
Now,
iba
Donna,
rin.
dagdag ko lang sorry.
Yes,
yung
sure,
sinasabi ko kasi na pre-COVID activity, yung differentiation, yung case
Okay.
study lesson, pwede rin yun gawin sa Zoom through breakout rooms.
Oh, all right. Yes.
Diba? But we have to be very particular of screen time. So, kung kinakailangan na 30 minutes lang or less, kinakailangan. Kaya kukuha ka talaga kung ano lang yung pwede mong isynchronous. Yung pinakamahalaga. And then, ano yung pwede mong i-follow up na lang in asynchronous sessions so that the learner can also have agency. So ito yung matututunan dapat din ng learner. Ay, wala na akong teacher na matatanong. Wala nang library na anytime kapag recess, kapag lunch, kapag dismissal, I can go see my librarian. So online na lang and then limited pa. So these are the considerations that we have to look out for when designing our teaching and facilitation of research skills and MIL in general.
Yes, thank you so much, Miss Sarah, for that. No. Now I go to Ma'am Lucila. Hi, Ma'am. So we have a question here. Hello
Yes,
po. We have a question here. This one this is from a YouTube comment, no? From Miraluna Climaco, Region 8. I hope I pronounced that right. So the question, how can members of the community benefit the library services when most municipalities and provinces do not even have a library? What can the Public Library Association do about this para matulungan din daw natin ang ating mga libraries in those areas? Ma'am? Okay. So sige, balikan na lang po natin, no, si ma'am. I'll go to Ma'am Dr. Rose. Hi, Ma'am Rose. Hello po. So, we have a question here.
Good afternoon, Ma'am Donna.
Hello po, ma'am. So, may question tayo dito.
Apo.
seeing how your region, no, is very active. Dami pong na-accomplish, no? Of course, with the provincial chapters, ang ganda po nung inyong mga activities and all. Here's a question. This is from somebody who's in NCR. I'm a part of a consortium and an officer also. How do you encourage all your members to join your activities? So do you encounter difficult members? How did you manage to even have them participate in your programs? Kasi kita natin, no, very cohesive, ang ganda nung program sa inyong region. So how do you encourage the participation of the region?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to all the participants. I didn't have any introduction na kumbaga saying my good afternoon and the privilege and the opportunity to be a part of this. Na shock din ako. I was really very challenged when I was set into this paper presentation that I need to do this for a very short time. And I really was very proud of the STLRC. Miss Sarah is one of us. And I knew Miss Sarah has gone from one province to another. She is a most requested storyteller and a resource speaker. We capitalized on our resources, and Miss Sarah is the best resource for storytelling. Miss Sarah, sorry, I'm a stubborn student of yours. Saka natin ituloy. uh, uh, it's so hard to be an officer, and really it's so hard to encourage our members to participate in activities. Now, the pillars of the SLRC, though I am old, no, I'm senior, but I'm not the first one who who started all this. Siguro si Serene, because when I get into STLRC, Serene was there, Miss Audrey and her mom was there, pero is there, no? But I just get in the later part. But I have seen how we work together. At inano din namin, we practiced yung cooperation, collaboration, uh, nanggaling siguro kay Miss Sarah. Na-embed na, no? Na-embed na sa amin, no? And I would like to tell that the provincial chapter has a great role here, because our provincial chapter is not composed of licensed librarians. They are composed of paraprofessionals, and these paraprofessionals eventually became librarian. In Southern Tagalog, we say it accidental librarians, and now they are licensed librarians. We help them out to become licensed librarians. We had the chance also to recognize their efforts. We have some members, I cannot call librarians because they are not, but they are members of the provincial chapters who were the inspiration of the licensed librarians. So giving you an example is our Alabat member. We have the municipal librarian of Alabat, Quezon is not a licensed librarian, but he pushed through with projects that we initiated or we introduced. Kasi we introduced project, but there are some areas or provinces that do not do the activities. So Alabat had expanded and had its barangay. She provided reading centers in all the barangay. And she is the first one. Alabat, Quezon is the first municipality in the Philippines to have its barangay centers in reading centers in all the barangays. Now there are some who are doing the same activity because they have seen the benefit of it. Now, each of the chapters have their own activity. If you would notice in the study, we only have about, for 15 years, we have only about 10 or 11 uh, major activity for the Southern Tagalog, because we would like our chapters to be doing their activity, and we support them because we need to go to the grassroots. We need to go to the paraprofessionals and we help them out. Uh, we want them to be librarians also. And there are so many who became librarians. Of course, there are many difficult members. We cannot say that there are none, but there are. But they would see the beauty, the best, the benefit of these activities. We go through community service also. I wasn't able to show it because of limited time. I would also wish to apologize for some of the shortcomings that was not placed in the video, because I think the best thing there, so uh, we can encourage participation, is the recognition of what they have done. Uh, we have looked up to our colleagues, librarians like Father Paul de Vera and Mamila Santos. No, I'm sorry it wasn't there in our video, but I would wish that you would look at. I requested Sir Johnny to place it in the Moodle, in the recorded. You call it the recorded video, so you can see it again. And I missed also one of the chapters that was also organized, which is the Rizaleños, or the Rizal Librarians Association. Because if you have this type of associations in every provinces, communication is very easy. When STLRC had its summit, there must always be a representative coming from these different provinces. And we provided committees wherein they can really work on. So they have to participate. And for years that I am with Southern Tagalog Region Council, I would vouch that most of our members are very active and participative, and they're geared towards leadership. Siguro after this time, most of the younger generation will be the next leaders of uh, whatever endeavor they are in, whether they will be in public, private, special, or school libraries. So have I answered all the question? Because I've seen it's a lot
Yes,
of
ma'am.
question in one
Yes,
smorgasbord.
ma'am. Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. And if ever I miss it, I'll send a reply again.
Yes
Thank
po.
you.
Maraming salamat, ma'am. And really, thank you so much to all your efforts for Region 4. And now I think we have Ma'am Lucila back. Hi, ma'am. Hello
Sorry
po.
po. Hello. Naputol po.
Ayan na po,
Yes po.
opo. So, ma'am, ulitin ko lang po yung question.
Yes
Okay
po.
po?
Yes, ma'am.
Po, this is a question po na nakuha namin sa YouTube, no? This is from Miss Miraluna Climaco, Region 8. So, sabi niya, how can members of the community benefit the library services when most municipalities and provinces do not even have a library? What can the Public Library Association do about this para matulungan po natin itong mga areas na ito?
Good afternoon po. Actually, ma'am, nung hindi pa siya, wala pa tayong pandemic, we help talaga the Quezon City Public Library, aside from the National Library, syempre, help communities, no, sa pag-establish ng libraries nila. That was before, and sana nga after nitong kasi outreach po ng QCPL din po ito, that we help communities kahit doon po sa malayo. other provinces po, no, and barangays, we help them establish their barangay reading centers also. Yun po.
Okay po.
Nakikipag-negotiate din po kami. We go to the mayors. If
Yes.
the request po, we will help them, no?
Mm-mm.
Yun po.
Okay po, no? Maraming salamat, ma'am. And naalala ko lang yung keynote speech, no, ni Congress Man de Venecia, no, di ba?
Yes.
Nabanggit niya there are already bills establishing yung mga online libraries, no, right?
Yes.
And it's like he really wanted to help bring the libraries to the people, lalo na dun sa mga remote areas, no. I think
Yes.
it's good that we have advocates on board who will really listen to our concerns, no, in this
Yes.
in our profession. So
Yes, ma'am.
yun po. Maraming salamat, no, sa atin pong mga speakers this afternoon. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank
your
you.
time, your expertise, for being with us this afternoon, no? Maraming salamat po. And syempre,
Thank you.
Thank you.
yes, we will be awarding online our certificates of appreciation to our distinguished speakers. So let me just read the certificate. The Philippine Librarians Association Incorporated, in partnership with the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, through the National Committee on Libraries and Information Services and the National Library of the Philippines, awards this certificate of appreciation to Sara Gagatiga, Lucila Raquino, and Augusta Rosario Villamater for being a resource speaker during the PLAI National Congress 2020 and General Assembly with the theme Libraries as Catalyst in the New Normal Environment, Changes, Reforms, Transformations, held online from 24 to 27 November 2020, given this 26th day of November 2020, signed by the Executive Vice President Elisa V. Garcia and the PLAI President Emma M. Ray. So maraming salamat po muli, Miss Sarah, Miss Lucila, Dr. Rose. Thank you for your sharing. We wish you all the best in your endeavors. Maraming salamat po muli.
Thank you po. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we end day 3, let us announce the winners of today's e-raffle. So we have once again randomly drawn numbers based on your Moodle ID. So please watch your screens for the names of the winners for yesterday's and today's draw. Congratulations! Again, winners will receive an email after the PLAI Congress 2020 for instructions to redeem their prizes. So if you did not see your name, there will still be an e-raffle draw and prizes care of our sponsors tomorrow. And that concludes day 3 of the Online PLAI Congress 2020. Thank you so much to all our participants from the Philippines and across the globe who joined us today and finished the session until this afternoon. So di na kayo nabitin, no? We are very happy that you're all here. Once again, certificates of participation will be sent to all the participants after you have filled out the evaluation form and answered the questions that will be opened by our site administrator. Please be reminded as well that the recording of this online congress is available on our Moodle site at webinars.plai.org.ph and via PLAI's YouTube channel. And that wraps up our session today. This is Donna Labangon from the De La Salle University Libraries, your moderator and host for today. Thanking you all for participating in this event. Our sincerest thanks to all our speakers today who share their time and knowledge with us. Asahan po namin muli kayo bukas ng alas 8 ng umaga para sa huling araw ng ating Online PLAI Congress 2020. Maraming salamat po.